Hi guys, welcome to Counterpoints. My name's Connor. I'm a science fiction, politics, and philosophy nerd. I'm Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran, and boy, do I have a debate treat for you today. I got Vegan Gains. Vegan Gains is a bodybuilder, but he's also vegan, and he has a line of argumentation, a logical line of argumentation about going vegan. I've been through it. Pretty much everybody in Twitch and YouTube politics has been through it. He's an okay debater. He's all right. I think he's all right. And then we got Destiny, the liberal, sometimes progressive debate lord who has been in an endless amount of controversy and therefore does not have the debate sphere in orbit that he used to, but he's still quite a powerful character that likes to come out onto the scene and throw elbows. They're going to be talking about Venezuela. They're going to be talking about other topics. We're going to let them break it down. I'll be pausing intermittently to share my thoughts. Let's go.
There's a number of reasons why the U.S. would have legitimate reasons to invade Venezuela. Worst case scenario, it seems, we got rid of a horrible dictator.
And replaced him with the vice president of the horrible dictator.
Have you been talking to Clav and getting some of his crystal meth?
No.
Trump's never going to invade Greenland. How about you give me a few Bitcoin if he ends up not invading Greenland by the end of his term? Because, like, it's just silly.
Sure, so as long as you want to wager on the other end that we won't set up any long-term refineries, that we won't have any formal agreements or negotiations we do with Venezuela to control any of the terrorist stuff going on in that country.
I never said that we would. Okay, so you're just wasting my time. Okay, so you're all just a waste of my time.
I'm not gonna do any debates ever again.
I'm so
pissed with the December 9th.
Don't do testosterone, kids.
Hello.
How you doing, buddy?
I need to talk to you about Venezuela again.
Okay. What's up?
So, from my perspective, for the time being, I only see positives with the, Trump invading Venezuela situation. So again, it gets China out of South America. Again, they're importing missile systems into Venezuela that could reach the United States and could certainly help to give them power over the Panama Canal. Venezuela was also training Islamic terrorists from Hezbollah and other Iranian proxies. That's why there's like big Muslim communities in Venezuela right now. It's because terrorists are just bringing their friends and family members over. So also not a good thing. And there's also them trading oil with China and Russia. So, the United States does get some control over the oil resources in Venezuela. Might be a little hard to actually take advantage of that because there's a whole bunch of issues with oil investors wanting to even bother in that region because right now they don't have the best security guarantees, and they're hesitant since Venezuela has nationalized their oil industry before and basically stole everything from them. And their oil extraction and refineries are basically non-functional. I think they're operating at like 20%. So that is kind of like when people say, the U.S. invaded Venezuela for oil. I don't think.
What do you think? Oh, sorry. I literally just fast forwarded. He was doing his intro, so my apologies.
China and proxies, the oil resources in Venezuela. Might be a little hard to actually take advantage of that because there's a whole bunch of issues with oil investors wanting to even bother in that region because right now they don't have the best security guarantees, and they're hesitant since Venezuela has nationalized their oil industry before and basically stole everything from them. And their oil extraction and refineries are basically non-functional. I think they're operating at like 20%. So that is kind of like when people say, the U.S. invaded Venezuela for oil. I don't think that's really what it was.
Are you guys okay with 1.10? It seems a little crazy at first, but typically if you just relax, it'll be fine. Just jumping ahead, with this is that there's no guarantees that China isn't going to continue to put stuff into Venezuela. Just because we prove that militarily in a surprise special forces mission, we were able to kidnap their president, doesn't mean that Venezuela is going to be like, oh, well, we're just going to dismantle our entire security apparatus and stop working with our allies. It's obviously a million times more complicated than that. And then also when it comes to support for terrorism, once again, we have not dismantled the security apparatus that provides training to Middle East and North Africa. I would also need to see that more evidence. It's not that I don't believe that it's possible. So for instance, like one of the oil tankers that we seized in the past couple of months was allegedly destined for a place to like Iran. It was destined for Iran to be refined. And the way that it works is like it gets refined and then it gets sold, and then the money that gets sold from the proceeds of this thing are going to Hezbollah. And I have no idea whether or not any of that information is verified. But that's American intelligence services are asserting that. I just haven't seen the evidence for it. And then and then when it comes to oil, I'm sure it actually is quite complicated in order to get access to the oil resources. And so we would need American companies and the United States government and the Venezuelan government to work on a collaborative project in order to develop the oil resources. So yeah, we're screwing over our enemies and our rivals, which I think is great. If we actually did improve our relationship with Venezuela to the point that we were helping them develop oil resources, then that would be fantastic. But we haven't seen any evidence of that. And once again, Donald Trump seems like a dog chasing cars, where once he gets what he wants, he doesn't know what to do with it. And that's kind of how I feel like we are with President Maduro, where it's like, yeah, cool. We flex nuts. We showed China and Russia that we still have the capacity to do complex special operations missions that defy the imagination of our rivals and enemies. We've screwed over their energy infrastructure to the point that they're probably experiencing some shocks in the market. But what else, right? Because everything else we're talking about is infinitely more difficult than what I've just said. So I'm sure Destiny will go down that line of attack, but I do want to, if Destiny does say something crazy, then I'm going to object to it, obviously.
It's more of a national security thing where they're just trying to create a checkmate against China. And
oh, sorry, real quick. I do want to shout this out. Horse God says great job in the Expanse video, by the way. Yeah, guys, check out Counterpoints Sci-Fi, check out Counterpoints Star Wars. So Star Wars, I'm making my way through the Clone Wars 2D animation, which is some of the best Star Wars content that's ever been created. And for Counterpoint Sci-Fi, I am 2 episodes into the TV series The Expanse. The Expanse is the best near future hard sci-fi I've ever seen. So some of the special effects are a little janky. Some of the firefights and battle scenes are like, could we have done that better? Probably. But is it good enough to grip you into it and make you think about really, 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 really cool things while also giving you awesome aesthetics and good action set pieces? Absolutely. So strong recommend checking out Counterpoint Sci-Fi. Anyways, back to it.
Just weaken Russia.
Okay. Let me. I'm just 1 sec. Opening stuff over here. I wrote down your points. What the fuck is this? Hold on. Okay, that was done. Okay. For the first point, you said China is sending missile systems to Venezuela. First, can we clarify, what do we mean when we say this? Do you have like an article or something for me to read so I can check out this claim real quick? I just Googled China missile systems Venezuela.
Ryan Macbeth talked about this. He covered it. They're medium range.
Okay. Sorry, that's interesting. We had a recent delve into serious geopolitical creators, and Ryan Macbeth was one of them. And then the other guy, William Spaniel, was the other guy. I didn't like Ryan Macbeth's analysis at all. He was saying because China financially owns the Panama Canal or whatever, that's why America has been like beefing with them. That's why they've been beefing with them for control of the canal. and we've been using private investment firms in order to shore up our financial backing in the Panamanian Canal. But then because they control the canal, they could put a commercial vessel in the middle of it and then blow it up. That's still true. Like even if we had 100% ownership of the Panama Canal, it would be entirely possible for China to take 2 civilian commercial vessels, put them on either end of the Panamanian Canal, and synchronize, blow them up. That way, American warships have to sail around South America in order to get into PACOM. Now, I also think we have enough Pacific assets that wouldn't even necessarily matter. But that was one of those things where, like, it sounds good on paper, like, oh, China's like this big scary monster. China is this thing that's totally going to screw us over, which is potentially true. But then it's just like this analytical detail that doesn't show very much like deep thought. And so as a result, it's not like I'm trying to knock Ryan Macbeth totally. Like, if he hits something out of the park, then I'm gonna give him credit for it. But that was one of those things where I was like, how much of this is performative fear and anxiety from somebody who's supposed to be a subject matter expert for clicks versus how much of this is decent analysis? Whereas I think that William Spaniel, one of the videos that he did, I just praised highly because all of the questions I had from the Ryan Macbeth video, William Spaniel answered. And yeah, so citing Ryan Macbeth is kind of like a yellow flag for me. I'll put it that way.
Range missile systems, so basically they could reach a little bit past Florida. So they could directly attack the United States in theory.
Can I see? I just need to see one thing for this because I've never heard this before. So that they can launch.
Hey, Grid, how are you?
Aggressive, offensive, intermediate ballistic missile attacks against the United States because of Chinese imported missile systems. I'm searching for this.
Well, I don't think they're ballistic missiles. I don't think they're ballistic missiles.
Well, if they're shooting them from Venezuela, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're ballistic missiles.
Are they long range? Do people shoot?
Medium range. Yeah, they're like medium range missile systems. Some of them could reach a little bit past Florida.
Okay, can I see real quick? I need to see like one link or source for this because I'm not seeing any of this. I see a bunch of apparently defense systems or whatever, but I'm just trying to find just so I can get.
It's Dubois with the 2. It looks like it says it's W, but he has wa at the end, so I have to make orc sounds with the 2. If Connor comes on, I stayed up entirely too late. Sorry, King. Go to bed. Here's me telling you to go to bed, all right? Go to bed, catch it as a VOD, watch it at 1.5 speed later on. Also, like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. I am trying to pace myself with engaging with chat. That way, like if Ved Sunil is like, what do you think about Venezuela? I'm probably going to talk about it in the next like 30 minutes. So I'm not going to answer that question as I'm scrolling through unless, unless I think like, no, I'm not going to remember to address that. Therefore, whatever. But Ved Sunil, since I saw your question, let me go ahead and answer it now. What do I think about Venezuela? Venezuela, the decapitation strike is interesting. And on Friday, the Friday that it happened, my position was like, Trump is a psycho. He's a unilateral monster. I can't believe he didn't do this without an AUMF. I can't believe he didn't do this with any kind of congressional insight. He should be impeached, F him, right? And then I started hearing arguments over the weekend that were effectively like, hold on. When it comes to Obama with Syria, he tried to overthrow the Assad regime, didn't have an AUMF for that. In Libya, we provided air cover for rebels in order to take out Muammar Gaddafi, didn't have an AUMF for that. When it comes to Clinton in Serbia and Kosovo, we engaged military assets in that region in order to prevent a genocide, didn't have an AUMF for that. Herbert Walker Bush in Panama, didn't have an AUMF for that. Who is it? Ronald Reagan with Grenada. I think Lebanon, we did have a AUMF, but I think with Grenada, we didn't. And with Lebanon, the second that we got bombed, we backed out. And I don't think that was with the consultation of Congress either. So the point is that, like, we could go back further, all the way back to the inception of the country. We did not have congressional authorization to do acts of not war, where we're just declaring open hostilities between a nation, which is a people, and a state, its government. It seems like the president of the United States can do everything up to that threshold, and then they can like fall short of that threshold without congressional authorization. Same thing with Vietnam, where Vietnam, we did have a congressional authorization, but we did not have, I don't think we might have had a declared war against North Vietnam. I don't remember. I think we'd have to take a look at it. And then same thing with Korea. Korea was done without an AUMF. There was no authorization from Congress. And yet we lost 36,000 troops in what we call the police action in the Korean Peninsula. And that didn't have congressional authorization. So once again, like, if I look back 100 years and US presidents have been doing crap like this for the past 100 years, arguably 200 years, then how am I supposed to freak out on Trump for doing something that's insane? The reason why it's insane is because he kidnapped the foreign president of a rival or enemy nation. Then he's treating that nation as if it was a client state of the United States. And there's no geopolitical reason for us to believe that just because we captured the figurehead, Venezuela is going to fall into line. That's what's crazy about Venezuela. Anyways, back to it.
Let me see. They have sent a variety of military equipment to Venezuela. They have, in fact, let me see. So much of this might be just because of it might be hard. Like, if you're just Googling this, it might be kind of hard to find anything because, like, literally everything is about the dumb current invasion. I might give me 1 second.
I see that they have a shipment of Chinese C-802A anti-ship cruise missiles, which can target vessels about 190 nautical miles away. For the past several years, been channeled to Venezuela. China's arms sales have included various armored vehicles, artillery, and light aircraft. And the regime in Venezuela has often obtained such assets at discounted prices in exchange for oil deliveries to Beijing.
This one covers I think it just gives a basic mention of military equipment being sent to Venezuela from China. I can send you that.
All right. I'm going to fast forward a little bit.
I don't know if the U.S. could...
Well, again, that's one of the reasons why they invaded Venezuela.
Yeah, but I'm not seeing any proof that that even was the case. I don't think that ever happened. I think at most maybe there are some missile defense systems for like surface-to-air things that apparently didn't function well during the U.S. attack, but I don't think that they were getting long-range missile systems from China.
Well, I didn't say long range. I said some of them are medium range that could go as far as like about Florida.
Yeah, but that would be...
And Texas. So that was Ryan McBeth's analysis real quick, was that there were ballistic missiles that could be, or that China might have been selling Venezuela, and it would have been easy for them to strike our oil capacity in southern Texas. And it would be one of those things that we could just kind of like ignore, where we're just like, oh, well, I mean, they're medium ballistic missiles. We got limited missile defense. You know, they're a few thousand miles away. How good could Chinese and Russian technology be? And then boom, if there was ever like a hot war between the United States and China and we were lackadaisical about it, they could take out our oil refining capacity in the southern United States, and then we're at a disadvantage in a hot war. So it's all about like geopolitical, military, technological, and logistical maneuvering. So, but to dismiss it out of hand, if we have a, analysis, like I'm assuming Ryan McBeth, while I think some of his analysis was very surface level, I'm assuming if he's talking about these Chinese systems going into Venezuela so they could hit our oil capacity, that's got to be based in something, right? And then also, here's another thing too. On principle, do we have the ability or right to dictate to rival and enemy nations what they're allowed to trade amongst each other? Now, we assert that right. We say, oh, well, we're not going to, in reference to Cuba, we're not going to tolerate long-range ballistic missiles being in Cuba. And so we will withdraw our long-range ballistic missiles from Turkey, but we are also going to blockade commercial vessels going to Cuba that are carrying long-range ballistic missiles. So, like we've asserted that right, but on principle or moral, how are we able to dictate that Venezuela is not allowed to buy or develop medium range and long range ballistic missiles? They're a sovereign nation, right? So it's only through this like paternalistic dictatorial thing that we could say like, oh, well, China, you can't sell these long range ballistic missiles to the United States because we don't want you to. And China could tell us to go fuck ourselves, and they would have the right to tell us to go fuck ourselves. So that's where for me, it's like, it's more the principle than it is the logistics, because China could tomorrow, they could change their mind and be like, yep, we're sending long range ballistic missiles to Venezuela, and you can't do shit about it. Right. Yeah. Fast and Bulbous says modern ICBMs can hit anywhere on the earth from anywhere in the world. Yeah. Like Russia could hit us. China could hit us. Korea arguably could hit the West Coast. There's no reason to think that Venezuela will be any different. But if Venezuela is going to have intermediate or long range ballistic missiles, why wouldn't we on principle want them to get back into our orbit? You know what I'm saying? So like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. Thank you to the 3 people who have donated so far. Quick shout out to Vazraka and It's Dubwa for donating so far today. And then I did set up a goal, 10 super chats, $2 or higher over the next 2 hours. I would appreciate it if you'd like to stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. Let's go.
The long range, intermediate continental ballistic missiles. That would be like, that's a long range. This is like over 1,000 miles, I think, or maybe to reach.
Okay, well, I don't know if that would be the appropriate technical term.
Sure, I don't know the technical.
Regardless, apparently they did have missile systems coming from China that could reach the United States and could very certainly reach the Panama Canal. So again, some of this was to just kind of checkmate China in case they invade Taiwan and a bigger war breaks out.
I'm actually okay with that. I'm okay. Let's say that China wanted to invade Taiwan, and we saw like a bunch of commercial vessels, because China has been creating like a crazy commercial fleet that's dual purpose. It's military and it's commercial. And one thing that I saw recently was that commercial ships, they effectively have detachable storage containers that carry missile systems inside them. I want you to think about this, okay? Normal commercial vessel, it transports cargo. That's what it does, okay? And what China has developed is they've developed cargo containers or cargo container-sized missile systems that do not rely on the power system of the commercial vessel. And so effectively what they can do is they can mass produce this missile system. They can throw them on commercial vessels. Then they can put those in the Taiwan Strait and then fire those missiles into Taiwan in preparation for an invasion. And then they can also use amphibious and paratrooper assets in order to overwhelm Taiwanese forces and then establish a beachhead and then use commercial vessels in order to ferry troops onto Taiwan. And they have the numbers that they could overwhelm Taiwanese forces and then establish a beachhead and then invade Taiwan. So if what we're doing in response is we're saying, hey, you want to go after Taiwan? Well, Venezuela is a third of the proven oil reserves. They're in our hemisphere. They're in our backyard. They have difficulty developing their product. And on top of that, Russia and China benefit from their product because they're selling to you guys almost exclusively. As a result, we're going to put, you want to stick your finger in our eye by invading Taiwan. We're going to stick our finger right outside. Like, look at your screen right now. As a matter of fact, I'll go full screen for this because this is important. Okay. So what the United States, what Vegan Gains is saying is that we're not poking our finger in China's eye. We're just doing this. Okay. So it's like you see China like warming up their fingers and like stretching in order to poke us in the eye. And instead, we do this. We just put our finger right outside their eyeballs, right? So I'm okay with that. I think that's okay analysis. Grassroots with the 20. Thank you, King. Thank you for the oil, King. If chat hits the goal, I'll black bag Keir Starmer for the memes. Excellent. Excellent. Hit the goal. That way we have an international incident. All right.
Okay, I want to move on to the second part because I don't think this first claim is true. I just don't think there's any evidence for this. I think I would have heard about it. Okay. I think it would be a bigger deal. I think we'd be able to find tons of news articles about it if China was shipping intermediate ballistic missile systems to Venezuela. I think everybody over here.
I
think
don't know why you'd figure that.
because that would be a really big deal. It's almost like Cuban Missile Crisis tier of like countries being able to shoot missiles into the United States from South America. Why would they even need those missile systems? I think that would be really spooky.
I don't know why.
Why wouldn't they?
I don't know why you'd figure the news media would be all over that.
Real Serious says, does Connor ever do viewer call-ins? No, but I might have news on that front for you in the next couple of weeks. So stand by.
It would be a really big deal. No?
Again, apparently the Trump administration considered it a big deal, which is why they invaded, or part of the reason.
We don't know why. They've said it's for drugs. They've said it's for oil. They've said all sorts of things. So it's hard to, it's hard.
Well, there's a variety of reasons, and again, I would say the primary reason is just national security.
Okay, that might be the case, but there's no evidence of this missile system thing. For the second claim, you brought up terrorist training. Let me look this one up. What is you're saying Hezbollah or terrorist training?
Yeah, I think the main group was Hezbollah.
You guys keep asking sane but also silly questions in current media environment, okay? Bud123 says, why is the Syrian civil war and the imminent collapse of the SDF portion not making the news? Because it's been going on for like 10 years now, bro. We've been talking about, to some degree, the Syrian civil war since 2014, and people don't care. So during the Obama administration, prior to Donald Trump taking office, Obama wanted to overthrow Bashir al-Assad because he's a modernized but Russian and Chinese friendly dictator. I think he was like Western educated. I think he was educated in the United Kingdom, and I think his wife was educated in the United Kingdom. But there was geopolitical reasons why we wanted to do that, because it would screw over Russia if the Assad regime was overthrown. And so we backed the rebels, but we didn't back the rebels enough for them to successfully overthrow Bashir al-Assad. So we've been hearing Syrian democratic forces have slaughtered tens of thousands of people in the city of blank. And then we've heard ISIS forces have slaughtered tens of thousands of civilians in the city of blank. And then we heard government forces have dropped barrel bombs on the city of blank, resulting in 200,000 dead. And so we've been hearing that for a year, where 500,000 people in the Syrian the Syrian country, have like 500,000 people have died in the Syrian civil war. So people are just exhausted, man. They're just exhausted. Like, oh, okay, another civil war faction is fighting another civil war faction in Syria, and the current president of Syria is a former ISIS member in a suit who seems to want to be nice to the West. Okay, now what? Right? That's kind of the story. It's like, okay, a bunch of people got slaughtered. Now what?
Okay, this is an older one, but 70 million.
There you go. Thomas Dudley says that there's an official term for the Chinese commercial vessels. It's called the PLA, People's Liberation Army Maritime Militia. Boom. Now we got a technical term for it.
From Venezuela to Germany, January 2013, running training camps, international narcotics, Russia, Venezuela, Bolivia. Okay. I'm sure if it was active then, it was active.
Horus God, what is Aleppo? Exactly. Quick memes. There was a guy who I would have voted for named Gary Johnson. And Gary Johnson was the libertarian presidential guy. And it actually looked like he was going to get like 2 to 3% of the vote in the, what was that the Clinton? I think it was the Clinton Trump election. I think it might've been 16. Somebody can correct me if it was earlier. I think it was 16. So anyways, he seemed like he was doing okay. All right. He was doing okay. Lots of people hated Clinton. Lots of people hated Trump. Lots of people thought, oh, it was 16. Okay, for sure. So lots of people hated the two candidates that were there. And Gary Johnson was coming out and he was saying like, hey, man, both of the parties have lost their minds. I don't want to tax the hell out of you. I want Americans to be involved in like innovative business practices. I want to reduce the hostilities with international players. I want to do this. I want to do that. And so nobody really thought he was going to win, right? But they did think that he was going to, they did think that he was going to take like 2 to 3% of the vote, right? Like on a good year, which is amazing for the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian Party is effectively a joke. And so if a serious libertarian candidate stepped up to the scene, got 3 to 5% of the vote, maybe that would be enough for like this cultural wave of libertarianism to like seize the national discourse and therefore get deeper inroads into the American political life. But what happened is Gary Johnson went really quickly from being like a serious contender to get a few percentage stolen from the general election to the Syrian civil war was like the most important geopolitical event that was going on. And some reporter was like, hey, what do you think about what's going on in Aleppo? And he was like, what? And that had been like the story for 90 days was like Aleppo. It's the city in Syria that's getting the shit bombed out of it by government forces, and there's rebels in the town, and the civilians are getting massacred and all that kind of stuff. So it would kind of be like the only way you couldn't know what Aleppo, Syria was is if you hadn't watched the news in the past 2 weeks. And if you're running for president of the United States, you should either be watching the news or you should be having your team brief you on what's going on in the news on a weekly basis. And so he's like, what's Aleppo? What are you talking about? And so that kind of became a meme where it's like the libertarians, once again, fumbled the ball, not taking their own job seriously. And then effectively from that moment, it seemed like Gary Johnson stopped taking his own campaign seriously. And then he just used it as an excuse to get paid to smoke pot on podcasts. And he just like he just did the podcast circuit, smoked weed, hung out with people, talked about libertarianism. And that was like the death. That was the death of Gary Johnson's attempt to get 3 to 5% out of the general election. It was actually really, really sad. Grasher says Gary Johnson's answer to that was based, I'm not running for president of Syria. Sure, but if libertarians want to be taken seriously as presidents of the United States, they have to understand geopolitics. Even if they want to take a more isolationist lens and they want to dismantle the American empire, they're going to have to talk to normie neocons such as myself, and they're going to have to say how the world isn't going to cannibalize itself the second we leave it alone, and going, well, that's not our problem, so fuck them. That's not really like a good answer that's going to get me to cast a vote for you. You know what I'm saying? Real Serious says, oh my God, Connor, can you please show the video of Gary Johnson being booed by the Libertarian Party when in a debate panel he was asked if people should have their driver's licenses? Yes. And that's the other thing. I'm not going to show the clip because I'm not going to take the time to pull it up. But that was the other time that the Libertarians effectively just like killed themselves. They might as well have taken out like a 500 Smith & Wesson revolver, lined it up with their own foot, and then blown half of their foot off. Because effectively you have Gary Johnson, supposed to be the most serious Libertarian Party candidate in the past decade. A naked guy shows up to their what do you call that? He streaks the Libertarian Party convention. Somebody asks if on principle people should have driver's licenses. He says yes. The crowd boos him, and then another person goes up on stage and they're like, well, I think that I don't think that like kids should be able to do heroin. And then the crowd also boos. And it's like, okay, guys. All right, this is 22 seconds long. Gary Johnson booed at the Libertarian debate for supporting driver's licenses. This is why Libertarians are a freaking joke. Okay, this is why no one's taking you seriously. You're not going to get more than 2% of the vote in any given year, is because you're so adamant about not having any level of state involved at all that you're having an entirely different conversation than the rest of the American people. So volume's up. Let's hear it.
Should someone have to have a government issued license to drive a car?
Hell no.
What's next? Requiring a license to make toast in your own damn toaster?
The license to drive? You know, I'd like to see some competency exhibited by people before they drive.
Dude. That was in Orlando. That was at the Rosen. I could have gone to that. Ugh. Listen, man, and there's like a part of me that wants to like join the Libertarian Party, because obviously, like, liberals, if you say liberal, sorry, I'll get back to the content momentarily. But when you say liberal, you're saying center left, right? You're saying we need a little bit of taxes, we need a little bit of education, we do need the free market, we do need freedom of expression, we do need individual rights. But was there the streaker? I don't know, man. I could Google Libertarian Party naked guy and I can see the guy. He's like fat, he's hairy, he's ginger, and he's naked, and he's in front of the podium. I don't know what year that was, but you know, that's another Libertarian Party meme. So I would go to the Libertarian Party and say, like, hey, you know, the center left has their thing, which is effectively the Liberal Democrats. The center right needs its thing, which should be the Libertarian Party. But I'm a statist, and I think that there are certain things that the state should do in order to reduce human suffering. And then I'm pretty sure what would actually happen is they would be like, okay, you're not one of us, right? That's exactly what would happen, is they would be like, no, you're not one of us. Therefore, you can buzz off. Can I link a meme? I mean, you can try, and if I can click it, I might pull it up. But I also don't, guys. I was on the ball. I was naked libertarian guy. I was on the ball. I was reacting to the content. We did not have attention deficit disorder. We were making our way through the content. I was responding to relevant chats, and that's and I was talking about it. But here we go. This is it. This is the Orlando, Florida Rosen Hotel. So the same place that they were at. I don't know if this was 2016, but yeah, dude, here's he's not naked. I guess he's wearing underwear, but he's basically proving why we're not taking libertarians seriously. It's because you had a political conference of people who are supposed to be serious about winning a large chunk of the electorate. That way the libertarians can become a third party in the United States. And this is your response to it. Why would we do this? Violence licenses also cucked. I hate you guys. I like to drive my helicopter by vibes. Yeah. Okay. We're going back to the content. Okay. We're going back to the content. In summary, libertarians cannot be taken seriously on the national stage. And why aren't we talking about the Syrian civil war? It's because everybody's exhausted after 10 years of hearing about the Syrian war. It would actually be cool if Syrians stopped killing Syrians. It would actually be super chill if everybody just like went and voted in a local election. And if somebody won that you didn't like, they didn't institute authoritarian rules that like dispossessed and slaughtered tens of thousands of their own countrymen. And then if everybody was just chill, and then if they participated in the next election, that would be super duper. All right.
More recently, but is there anything recent about time to designate Venezuela as a state sponsor of terrorism? Under the authoritarian rule of President Nicolas Maduro, Venezuela has hub of illicit drug trafficking and a sanctuary for terrorist organizations. The Maduro regime has cultivated mutually beneficial relationships with armed groups such as Lebanese Hezbollah and Colombia's Marxist rebel group ELN, allowing them to exploit Venezuela's laws and environment for their own nefarious ends. Practice on Tehran, allowing them to collaborate to undermine U.S. national interest and further entrench their...
Hold on. This is actually funny. I did pull it up for real serious with the Argentinian ARS. Today I will vote for a third party. Right. Libertarian winner. No government. Right. Yeah. So weirdly enough, we have, is it Javier Milei? Javier Milei has won. I don't know. Is he Argentinian? He's won in some, I think it's Argentina, right? Or is it Chile? I don't know South America, bro. Javier Milei, Argentine. So he's the Argentinian. Yeah, give him another 20 billion. So he's the Argentinian laissez-faire libertarian leader who has slashed vast swaths of the Argentinian state And there was like some indications that the privatization of the economy was increasing economic effect. But then there were also indications that they were on the verge of economic collapse. And so the United States actually recently gave Argentina $20 billion. Now, I think it's a loan. It's probably a no interest or low interest loan. And or there's some like economic concessions that we're getting. I forget what it is. But we gave Argentina $20 billion to stabilize. So, you know, it remains to be seen because I still think Javier Milei is in power. It remains, yeah, I think they did double it actually. It might be 40 billion now. It remains to be seen if a libertarian can actually like kickstart an economy. But, you know, we're kind of like in meme territory now because this is so recent. I think it's only been like the past 3 or 4 years. We actually haven't seen what's going to happen to Argentina going forward. So, yeah. People are saying we bought $20 billion worth of their currency in order to stabilize their currency. That makes sense. We doubled it to 40 billion. Okay. Grid says we actually made money on our deal with Argentina. That's cool. And we also bought all their beef, which effed over American ranchers. Well, hey, screwed over Admiral Gibbs. So I guess there you go. It's the guys. It's the hold on. What's the trolley problem? Let's pull up the trolley problem meme. And you guys are distracting me again, okay? If you're a VOD viewer and you're like, Connor, please go back to Venezuela. Please shut up. Blame my chat, dude. They're distracting me, okay? So here, it's the trolley problem. If you pull this lever, then nothing happens. And we kill a few people, but we don't kill that many people. And we just let the American war machine and empire continue as it presently is, okay? If we pull this lever, we kill 3 million Africans, and we spend $40 billion on Argentine beef and in stabilizing the Argentine currency, but also we screw up Admiral Gibbs's business. Do you pull the lever? Do you kill 3 million Africans to screw over Admiral Gibbs? Answers in chat.
Their respective illiberal governance models in a propaganda post produced by the office of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Maduro was featured alongside other prominent pro-Iranian leaders, such as Hezbollah's leader Hassan Nasrallah and Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad. Okay. Following the recent Iranian missile attack on Israel, it is necessary to consider the global reach of Iranian proxies and allies, particularly the well-sourced Lebanese terrorist organization Hezbollah, using Caracas as a base for their subversive activities in Latin America. Hezbollah operates a criminal terror network in the tri-border area of Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina that generates important revenue for the terrorist organization. Largely driven by narcotics trafficking, Hezbollah operatives can largely move to and from Venezuela discreetly, and many have roots in Venezuela's sizable Lebanese community. But the Maduro security apparatus the clandestine foothold in Venezuela threats Iran and Hezbollah with closer access to the U.S. homeland, as well as potential soft military targets in the Western Hemisphere. Infamously in 1992, Hezbollah, with Iranian support, bombed the Israeli embassy in Argentina 2 years later. Hezbollah. Okay, all right, this claim is at least true. Okay.
So there's a lot of Hadalaka people with 9/11-ish last names that are being flown to Venezuela for terrorist training.
Razzle Smasher, good to see you, King. Good morning, Connor. Good morning, chat. I started a new job, so I've been as active here lately, but I'm still listening to the streams on my commute. Also, Vegan Gains was fully R-slurred here. Based. Good to see you, Razzle.
Another reason, again, why Trump wanted to invade Venezuela.
Okay. I'm not sure about that one, but we can see that there is a definite link between Venezuela and Hezbollah, that there is at least money exchanged. People can move back and forth. There might be training. It seems there have been some attacks in South America related to this.
Like, what do you think they're doing?
Probably that, I would imagine. I don't know about...
Like, they're not going there for, like, I don't know, a cruise or
I think it's probably
holidays.
Yeah, I think it's probably bad. Yeah. Okay. Is there any other thing that we could do besides invading a country to try to... I
don't know if you'd call this an
Sanction and blockade. That would be my answer.
invasion.
Well, we went into the country with our military and we kidnapped the leader and deposed him.
Okay. Has Iran invaded the United States?
No.
Has Iran invaded Canada? Okay, well, they have hundreds of Iranian agents that are embedded within the U.S. and Canada. So,
yeah, but even if we
I don't know what you classify as an invasion. So, yeah, the
so
US
like
did
uniformed
perform a
military
operation.
services, like an Air Force, a Navy, or whatever else, doing a military operation in a country to depose the leader of that country is
So, okay, so
we don't have to tell any.
Old school for 2. Thank you, King. More beef is always good, no matter who gets hurt. True. What I was going to say, though, is the invasion. I think the reason why I would press Stephen on the definition of invasion is that if we're using like the colloquial term, then of course you could say we invaded their airspace. We invaded their sovereign territory. We invaded this. We invaded that. But I think that we often refer to the war in Iraq as the invasion in Iraq, and sending in a few dozen military special forces operators to wipe out 3 dozen Venezuelan, maybe it's 100, to wipe out 100 Venezuelan security personnel, kidnapping the leader, and then dipping out before anybody knows that better. That is not the same as the invasion of Iraq, right? The invasion of Iraq was like 250,000 Americans in trucks, in tanks, in amphibious assault craft, in all sorts of crap, rolling down the streets of Baghdad and then occupying, Iraq. An invasion is a forceful entry into another's territory or rights, often by an army for conquest, but also refers metaphorically to the unwelcome arrival of anything overwhelming like pests, disease, or an infringement of privacy. It signifies a hostile takeover, intrusion, or aggressive encroachment, whether by military force, large groups, or even microscopic pathogens. Okay? And key meaning, a large-scale hostile entry into a country by a foreign army to occupy or conquer. It's like the Roman invasion of Britain. And so that's where I'm saying, like, this definition implies large scale and occupation. And so I think destiny is wrong. But if we were quibbling over the definition of the word, because I don't have autism, like let's say Steven and I got into a fight and he was like, well, an invasion can technically be an infringement upon somebody's privacy. And we absolutely infringed upon the privacy of a sovereign nation and also that of its head of state, Nicolas Maduro. And then I was like, okay, well, the word invasion implies like large scale. It also implies, occupation. And then if he's like, well, it doesn't have to, then I'd be like, okay. And I'd be like, let's move into the bigger point. And the bigger point is whether or not the president can do this without congressional authorization, which legally, the answer is no. Historically, the answer is yes. And that's kind of an interesting state of affairs. And then the other question is, do we actually have geopolitical interest in Venezuela that justifies us taking aggressive action against it? The answer is also yes. And so it's one of those things. There's this quote from Bill Barr that I often repeat, which is that if you want a thing that Donald Trump advertises, right? Like, let's say that Donald Trump says, I want to secure Venezuela and break off their influence from Russia and China because this is in the geopolitical interest of the United States. Guess what? I do too. I think that's geopolitically brilliant. But Bill Barr says Donald Trump is the last person that you want to execute your policy because he is so stupid and inane and self-interested with a huge ego that doesn't care about anything. Bye, Dana. Good to see you. Got to go. Thanks, everyone here for the chat. Sprinkling valor, love everywhere. Have a safe day. Thank you, Dana. Thank you for dropping by. Thank you for tolerating us crazy people in the live stream. I really do appreciate it, Dana. Thank you for showing up. But what I was going to say is I wanted to say goodbye to Dana. Geopolitics, quibbles over military invasion, geopolitical interest. Bill Barr goes on to say that Trump is the last person you want executing the policy that you want because he will do it in the dumbest way possible. And he will create such a backlash effect against the thing that you want that you will be worse off than if he had done nothing at all. That's a direct quote from Bill Barr. Okay. So that's where, for me, it's like, yeah, Bill Barr was an integral part of the Trump won White House. I believe Bill Barr. Okay. Back to the content.
An invasion, you call it military operation, you call it whatever you want, but
and see, because Steven doesn't have autism, he says call it a military operation, call it whatever you want. See? PB and jelly. Peanut butter and jelly.
wait, what?
Did the U.S. invade Pakistan to get Osama bin Laden?
Arguably, yeah. Although we didn't target a Pakistan government or Pakistani leadership, we were targeting somebody in Pakistan. But I mean, people would consider that a type of invasion, sure.
Oh, okay. If Osama bin Laden were the president of Pakistan, you'd still call that an invasion, right?
Absolutely. But I don't think we would have done it if he was the president of Pakistan.
You don't think the United
Wait, we did that in Afghanistan, bro. We deposed the Taliban. What do we talk about here? Now, we had an authorization from Congress. That's true. But I mean, we love deposing leaders. It's like our favorite. Connor, you need to flip your mic. It's in your face too much when you are making good points that can be clipped into a short. Okay, I'll move it a little bit out of my face. But pretending that the United States doesn't have a hobby of deposing foreign leaders, that's like our favorite thing, man. If deposing foreign leaders is America's hobby, it's America's hobby the same way that like Warhammer is my hobby. You know what I'm saying? Like it's, this is kind of what we do. Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, we just kind of love doing it. It's kind of like our favorite thing.
States would have captured Osama bin Laden if he was the president of Pakistan?
Probably not.
Okay, dude, have you been talking to Clav and getting some of his crystal meth?
No. But we just generally don't
Like,
target
dude,
and
that's
kill.
insane.
Well, the insane thing is killing or kidnapping leaders of sovereign states.
Muammar Gaddafi, Bashir al-Assad.
That's a crazy, insane
Well,
thing to do.
guess what?
Yeah.
Guess what? Venezuela is not a sovereign state. Nobody recognized Maduro's presidency. He's had an arrest warrant out for him for years. The guy's been working with the CCP, Islamic militant groups, full-on terrorists.
Do you think it would be justified for the
and, yeah,
U.S.
the
to
guys-
depose China's leader, to kidnap him?
Oh God, yes. I need to look up the definition of the word turgid. This is a family show after all, so we have to use sanitized language when we're ever discussing vulgar concepts. So hold on, let's look up the definition of the word turgid. Turgid means swollen and distended, often by fluid, like a plant cell or a vein. Okay, so there's this older show. I say older, but it's not. I'll Google it. I won't say it, but if we militarily invaded, I know we shouldn't do it. Okay, I know we shouldn't do it. I know it's very dumb. I know it would be so dumb to send in a special forces team to kidnap not Mao Zedong. Although if we kidnapped Mao Zedong in the 60s or 70s, that would have been hilarious. If we kidnapped Xi Jinping and we were just like, hey, China, just to let you know, we could do this at any point. We're not invading, but we have, we kidnapped your boy. We got your boy. We got your boy. So Krieger, Fatimo says, Connor, Googling Google again. I Google because my Chrome browser defaults to Yahoo. So if it's defaulting to Google right now, amazing. But there is a mad scientist who's in the TV show Archer, and he says, stop. My phallus can only get so turgid. And I'm using sanitized terms because this is a family show. So yeah. So if we kidnapped Xi Jinping, totally terrible policy, horrible, destroy international relations, probably would have huge blowback effects, huge blowback on the economy. But I could only get so turgid.
Well, I'm sorry, different set of circumstances.
Well, no, I'm just asking. If you're saying that them getting weapons from China could be a reason, do you think that deposing China?
Trust me, I know I can put Google as my default search engine. It reverts back to Yahoo. Don't worry about it.
And its leader itself would be valid from
How
a
would
U.S. interest.
okay, why are you bringing that up?
I'm just
Obviously, at this point in time, that would not be tenable.
Well, I'm not asking if it's tenable. I'm just saying would it be justified. If we had the ability,
so why are you bringing that up?
well, if we had the ability to go into China and kidnap Xi Jinping or whatever and depose the government
Oh my God, please.
there and get out with minimal losses or no losses, like would we be justified in
What
doing
would
that?
be like that question is nonsensical. What would be the objective?
Capture the
What would
leader,
be the best outcome?
capture the leader, and
What
take
would
no
be-
damages.
and what would the possibility of like mission success be?
Let's assume 99%.
Dude, I hate grassroots commentary. I'm all the way back in current chat. I still see you guys in current chat, but in chronological chat, we're still on like driver's license and pilot's licenses. And grassroots hegemon is like, how am I supposed to know if I'm a good pilot or not if they don't let me try it out? Arguing that he should just be allowed to get into a plane and flip buttons and take it out for a test drive. With no government oversight, no licensing, no nothing. Okay, bro. Okay. Machine guns and vending machines. I get it.
Okay, then sure.
Okay.
Why wouldn't you?
Well, because I think that the concept that every sovereign state in the world's leadership is now looking to both defend against foreign capture or assassination, or is looking to commit foreign capture or assassination, puts the whole world in a more aggressive and on edge posture. Like, it makes everything less peaceful, makes it harder to make trade deals with each other. It makes everybody less trustworthy of almost everything, immigration, military stuff, whatever. I just think
Sure. We should only kidnap foreign leaders as a treat. We shouldn't do it all the time. Like, if we're good for a couple of years, we haven't deposed any regimes, we haven't overthrown any governments, we haven't engaged in any, limited military operations, then we should just kidnap one foreign leader as a treat. It should not be the default American diplomatic and military position that we, like, when we don't like you, we just get to kidnap your leader. Probably not a great default political position. Thank you to the people who are chipping. Thank you to Real Serious for the 100 ARS, chipping into the Let Grassroots Kidnap the UK PM fund. Thank you, Real Serious. I do appreciate it. And if he does it, that's on him, man. Like I'll laugh. I'll laugh, if Grassroots gets caught, I don't know where he is. Isn't it like 310 Buckner Street or something like that? I forget where it is, but they always have like the prime minister talking in front of some like townhouse in London, so it'd be hilarious if, I'm not saying he should do it, but it would be hilarious if the prime minister goes out for a speech out front of his townhouse in downtown London and there's Grassroots with a balaclava and a potato sack, 10 Downing Street. There you go. His townhouse in 10 Downing Street. It would be hysterical. Do you guys remember when 221 Baker Street? Yeah. Is that Sherlock Holmes? Yeah. Do you guys remember when Borat tried to kidnap Pamela Anderson in a potato sack? Do you remember that? I'm gonna Google it real quick. So Borat, Pamela Anderson, potato sack. Apparently this was like an unprompted stunt. Okay. So Borat is in love with Pamela Anderson. Pamela Anderson, I think, was 40 or 50 at the time. And he proposes to marry Pamela Anderson. And like, she was in on it. Oh, okay, good. I hope she was in on it. Otherwise, she would have been. Sacha Baron Cohen says Pamela Anderson's Borat kidnapping scene led to her divorce from Kid Rock. That's kind of crazy. That's kind of funny, though. But anyways, he shows up to a Pamela Anderson book tour, and then he has this like ceremonial kidnapping blanket bag thing. And so he's like, oh, I want to marry you. And she's like, oh, haha, you're so sweet. You're so sweet. Ha ha ha. And then Borat, oh, here's a gif of it. He tries to throw her in the marriage kidnapping blanket. So yeah, so if wouldn't it be hilarious if Grassroots Hegemon went to 221 Baker Street or 10 Downing, wherever the prime minister's townhome is, and then showed up with a marriage kidnapping sack and tried to kidnap the prime minister of England? I think that would be amazing. Vazraka also gave $5 for the kidnapping the prime minister fund. All right. Appreciate you. Let's keep going.
I think it creates an overall more tense, worse world.
Yeah, you notice it's Russia and China that are saying that. Oddly enough, weird. I wonder why.
Well, but even Russia and China aren't typically assassinating foreign leaders, right?
Oh, you don't think they are?
No.
Russia didn't try to assassinate Zelensky?
I mean, they try,
I'm
but I mean, they're
sorry?
also, the countries are also at war with each other.
Okay. So you're saying it was a bad idea for the U.S. to go after Maduro because it makes Putin on edge that somebody might be interested in assassinating political leaders, even though this guy murders everybody he doesn't like left and right, including foreign political leaders.
I'm gonna grab some water. I'll be right back.
When was it? Did
So what
Maduro?
are you
Who did
fucking
Maduro?
talking
What foreign
about?
political leader did Maduro assassinate or murder or capture?
We're talking
Hold on. If he says Putin, hold on. Let's see if he says Putin.
about Putin.
Oh no. Can I say? This is mad funny because this is what I asked. This is what I asked Steven during the Docs War. I was like, hold on, you can't prove that Queeman or J-Stock or Doobie were involved in doxing. So how can you attack every member of their community and them for things that they didn't do? And Steven was like, oh, well, they're all related and they're all bad and they're all my enemy and they're all my rival. Therefore, I can do whatever I want. You know, that's like mad funny. So but then when it comes to geopolitics, when it comes to, you know, what the United States can do, then he has a principle against like unlimited warfare. I know it's just an analogy, but that's why I depicted him as the Mad King. I depicted him as the Mad King because on Monday he's going to say, well, you can't punish individuals for the sins of a collective group. That's crazy. And then on Tuesday he's going to be like, oh, hey, Twitter people, here's J-Stock's first name and last name, and here's his dead dad's obituary. Okay? That's crazy. All right? Let's be real. That is crazy. That also happened. What is it? J-Stock sent me a Discord DM where apparently Steven, despite the Docs War supposedly being over, he posted J-Stock's first name, last name, and his dad's obituary. Kind of crazy. I would have advised against that course of action. But anyways, I'm gonna grab some water. I'll be right back.
What foreign leader did Putin murder or assassinate or capture?
Literally.
Oh, it's without dispute that Putin has assassinated people. There was that spy that he hit with like polonium like a decade ago. Absolutely, Putin has killed people through extra legal means.
I wasn't talking about Maduro doing that. I was talking about Putin doing that.
Sure, who does Putin do it to?
You brought up this idea. That, you know, taking Maduro sets this precedent where anybody can go after any foreign leader. Well, the only people who are saying this stupid shit are Xi or the CCP and Putin of Russia. And what do these people do? They kill all political dissidents they can get a hold of, including foreign leaders, especially Putin. This guy's tried to assassinate foreign leaders again, left and right, including.
Who are these attempted assassinations left and right? You keep saying left and right like it's over and over and over again. Who?
What do you mean? There's at least a few dozen political assassinations.
Then name a few. Name like two of them. Who? Foreign leaders or foreign diplomats or foreign government officials?
Well, no, I was spies. So no, I said political dissidents
from their own country, their own nationals. Yes, their own nationals. Yes, that's a lot different than other countries. Yes, that's different than other countries' citizens or leaders.
Sorry, they did it. Putin has assassinated Russian political dissidents that defected and became citizens of the UK.
Sure, that's possible, and that's bad, but it's still way different than going after foreign leaders. Yeah.
By the way, Russia has also done like some of the most shit when it comes to some of these assassination attempts. They had Russian agents put like some sort of nerve agent on a hotel doorknob. Mm-hmm. Anybody could have touched that thing and killed anybody.
Sure, but wasn't that attack targeting Navalny?
There was. So, what does this matter? You acknowledge Russia kills foreign citizens of other nations.
No, I don't think they generally target. I don't think that's generally Russia's MO. No.
I'm not saying they targeted innocent civilians. I'm saying they are responsible for civilian deaths with these like insane, reckless assassination attempts.
I just don't think that generally happens. No.
And again, Putin is the guy who's saying, "Oh, this Maduro thing is all wrong. You shouldn't go after foreign leaders, while he goes after foreign leaders like Zelensky.
Well, Zelensky
He's
is
tried to
different because at the very
orchestrate-
least, those two countries are at war with each other, right?
Okay. What you do understand, like Russia is to there is like a cyber war going on between Russia and the United States and United States and China.
Mhm.
So are you saying it should be okay for us to go after Xi? You wouldn't have a problem with us assassinating him, since
I mean, we haven't really the world hasn't decided
they've
that
been
like
trying to find all the nuclear launch sites. They've been trying to install malware into all of these computer systems that control heavy industry like nuclear reactors, any energy production facilities. So they're trying to engage in cyber warfare that could completely cripple the United States in case of an all-out war.
Yeah, and I think that's really bad. And I think we need to have a conversation about, like, I think you could justify military action for that type of stuff. But right now, as per the agreements from countries all over the world, we just don't really do military responses for cyber warfare.
Yeah. So it's just very strange that you have a situation like Maduro, where he's bringing in Chinese missile systems that could be used to directly attack the United States.
That's, to be clear,
would
that's not
almost
true.
certainly
right?
be used to shut down the Panama Canal.
That's not. We don't know if that's true either. Right?
They are helping train terrorists.
That could be
They're
happening.
helping
Yes.
fund terrorism.
It's probably happening.
They're
Yeah.
trafficking drugs.
Okay. True.
And you have a country that has rich oil reserves, and they're getting completely like they're just not getting taken advantage. Like they're not taking advantage of it because their oil industry is just being turned to absolute shit because of this regime. There's a number of reasons why the U.S. would have legitimate reasons to invade Venezuela, especially considering this guy's presidency is completely illegitimate. The operation was a great success. You're talking about very minimal amount of people that had to be killed. They were in and out, and so far, it hasn't turned into
In and out, Morty. 20-minute adventure, Morty. In and out. We're going to topple the leader of Venezuela, Ricky. In and out. 20-minute adventure.
to Iraq just yet. And we have somebody who was Maduro but seems to be playing nice with the United States right now. So this seems like a pretty clean operation. Seems like all kind of win-win for the United States. And at the very least, some of these oil industry execs can get some of their money back from, the theft that occurred when their oil industry was nationalized. So it's just kind of strange that the only real pushback I've seen you make of this is, oh, well, other world leaders are talking about how this is making them worried that this sets a new precedent that we can just go after other world leaders. The only people who are saying this are fascist dictators like Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin.
I mean, other South American leaders
who
are
they
saying
themselves
this, but,
are engaged in this exact kind of behavior.
Okay. Oh, I mean, that's a take. I'll say this with 95% confidence.
Yeah, what's the problem with the take? It seems like so far they've been establishing the take. I want to know what the problem with the take is.
Nothing will be done to stop the ties between any foreign terrorist group and Venezuela. Nothing will be stood up long term for any kind of U.S. oil extraction. This idea will probably be abandoned within a few months because this administration has the foresight for literally nothing.
True. Not totally true, but partially true.
We haven't made any administrative change whatsoever in Venezuela. It's the same regime that was there before. We didn't put the other one in power that had won the election. So if you really were concerned about the results of the last election, then the current administration totally betrays that idea. There were no missile system ship. I don't know where we got that idea from. There's no proof of that. And I seriously doubt that happened because we would be talking about it. And I don't think we've damaged their relations with China or Russia at all. And there was a superior way to go about literally all of this, which would be building an international coalition
What
of
do you
partners.
mean we haven't damaged their relations with China and Russia? We literally captured Russian oil tankers.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal. Sorry, I was eating a chocolate bar. But no. I totally disagree with Stephen here whether or not it's a big deal. No, it's absolutely a big deal. Okay. And the reason why I would say it was a big deal, or I wouldn't have thought it was a big deal because the media wasn't paying attention to it, but that has nothing to do with whether or not it's a big deal. Setting up a Caribbean naval blockade, blowing up random, I say random, but blowing up suspected drug traffickers, but also blocking the shadow fleet that is moving sanctioned oil out of Venezuela into the rest of the world, that's going to choke the energy supply for Russia, Iran, and Russia, Iran, Venezuela, and China. And you say, oh, well, Iran already has its energy and it has the capacity to back Russia and China, therefore they don't need Venezuela. That's totally true. But when you look at the major players who still hate the United States, it is Venezuela, Iran, Russia, and China. So you're talking about significantly effing over one of our geopolitical rivals and peers that is a part of a 4 or 5 way alliance against us. Think they were sanctioned? No, they were sanctioned. So not only were they were sanctioned, but we weren't enforcing the sanctions. So we were saying like, Venezuela for XYZ crimes against humanity and political intrigues and stealing of our national resources and stealing all the shit from ExxonMobil and this, that, the other. Nobody within our alliance group should buy Iranian oil. And if anybody wants to do business with us, we're going to punish you if you do business with Iran. I keep saying Iran, Venezuelan oil. We're going to punish you if you do business with Venezuela. And then in reference to Venezuela, we are going to cut your oil production by like 90% because number one, we're taking away all the technical and technological advisors. They're all leaving the country. But number two, we're going to make sure that there are not that many buyers for your product. And they have a product that is really dense that has to be cut with Middle Eastern and North African oil in order to be sold on the market. And effectively, the only person who's going to help them do that is Iran, who I'm sure we also have sanctions against. And so we're putting our rivals and our enemies into this geopolitical pressure cooker. But one of the release valves of that pressure cooker was the shadow fleet. Effectively, the story that I've heard is that Russian, Chinese, and Iranian and random country affiliated vessels who wanted to take a risk, they were making port in Caracas and whatever other ports have, loading up sanctioned oil and then driving it to the Middle East in order to be sold and then have that deposited back in the accounts of the Venezuelan government, which is also dangerous because they became like the way that you can become like a unicrop, like a single crop agricultural area. Venezuela became a uni-commodity economy. They became socialist. They nationalized the oil. Then they based their economy on oil. And then because the United States retaliated because of them nationalizing their oil asset, oil crashed for them. And so that's part of the reason why their economy is total shit. So basically, how do I phrase this? Targeting the shadow fleet, chasing the shadow fleet, and harassing and capturing vessels of the shadow fleet that are probably worth billions of dollars. The ships themselves are probably worth, I don't know, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. How much does a commercial transport vessel cost? I don't even know how much a commercial ship costs. And then add on top of that, the loss of trade because that vessel is now captured and impounded. Then on top of that, add the value of the oil that was on the vessel. Then on top of that, add the value of the oil that would have been exported in the future. And we're talking about billions of dollars of damage to the Venezuelan economy. So Venezuela shadow oil is the car spare change of oil reserves. I mean, if you're talking about globally, sure. But if you're talking about Venezuela, I don't know. How else are they making their money? How much of the Venezuelan government revenue was the shadow fleet? Let's take a look at this real quick. I'm going to read the AI summary, but if it doesn't seem comprehensive, then I'm going to check out the Yahoo Finance article. AI overview. The shadow fleet of tankers is crucial for Venezuela's oil reserves, allowing the regime to bypass sanctions and fund essential services, but specific revenue percentages are elusive. Data suggests less than 20% of Venezuelan crude exports use shadow tankers, yet these ships facilitate vital sales for the Maduro government by concealing origin, even as they represent a fraction of total oil output, but a significant mechanism for revenue generation from discounted oil. Central to survival, the dark fleet enables the export oil, providing the primary revenue source for the government, funding everything from food to weapons. Circumventing sanctions by cloaking location and identity, these vessels help evade U.S. sanctions, allowing U.S. Venezuela to sell discounted crude oil to willing buyers. Market share, while vital for the regime, shadow tankers carry a smaller portion, less than 20% of total Venezuelan exports compared to Russian or Iranian oil. Okay, so weirdly enough, it's saying that like it's not a large part, it's like 20% of the total Venezuelan economy, but that percentage is specifically important for Venezuelan governmental services. I don't know why. I don't care. Just know that it actually is a big deal. That's the main thing. That's the main thing that I'm trying to communicate.
Like Russia literally cannot get, same with China. They can't get any of these oil shipments to Venezuela.
Don't they buy more oil from OPEC? I don't know what the current things and produce their own oil more. And didn't we say that?
But that helps us.
Venezuelan refineries aren't even working that well anyway.
We know for a fact. There were Russian ships transporting oil.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure there were
now
some.
They can't anymore.
Sure. But I mean, I
don't know what you mean. It hurts their.
Mere doll with the horrible joke from like 30 minutes ago. Dude, brutal. I asked earlier, should we let 3 million Africans die in order to screw over Admiral Gibbs? Or should we not let 3 million Africans die? And Miradol said, you had me at 3 million Africans. Wow. Dark. Disavow.
The relationship, doesn't hurt the relationship with Russia or China. They're not able to do what they're doing there anymore. So again, they aren't. I don't know what you mean by Trump administration isn't going to do anything to prevent terrorism. I would imagine there's like especially considering how racist Trump is and how he really doesn't like Muslims. I would imagine, even if he was kind of a lazy, stupid, incompetent guy, he would kind of be motivated to actually, stop Hezbollah or whatever other Iranian-backed militant groups are getting training in the area. Well, they're like, I don't know.
You don't know. He doesn't know. Like, did we rebuild Gaza? Do you think that's happening?
Look, I'm sure if we're assuming this was one of the reasons why they invaded Venezuela, they would have some kind of a plan in place. So they
why would we assume that they don't have a plan in place for anything else they've done? What you're just making, that's a total baseless assumption. They don't have a plan for Gaza.
Well, look,
they don't have a plan for a comprehensive plan for literally anything this administration does. They can't even run their own Department of Justice. Why would we assume they have a plan for a whole other country?
That's not true. The plan for Gaza is to let Gazans live in the rubble of their destroyed nation so they die of diseases that are really easily preventable. And then the only way that the Gazans can rebuild their society is if they totally capitulate to the IDF, turn in every single weapon and every single rocket and every single, militant Hamas member. And then maybe the IDF will consider letting them rebuild Gaza. But until that happens, then we're just going to let them live in the rubble. And then some of them will probably apply for some kind of asylum through NGOs. And they'll say, hey, I'm tired of the rubble. I'm tired of the infrastructure being collapsed. Therefore, I'm going to get out of here. And so they'll get out through like refugee and asylum programs. So the game plan is basically like a really slow, miserable ethnic cleansing. And so, I wouldn't say they have no plans for Gaza. They're just malevolent, slow-rolling, evil plans, right?
Well, look, this wasn't just Trump's idea. Okay, there are people who are smarter than him that would have told him,
no,
hey,
there's not.
look, Trump,
Nope, there's
there's this reason, this reason, this reason.
No,
No.
I don't think so. I think
Trump,
that he's
do you think
eliminated.
Trump literally, sorry.
I think Trump has
You
eliminated
think
almost
Trump
all of the
looks at
intelligent
these
guidance that exists in his
complex
cabinet.
geopolitical strategies?
What complex geopolitical positions has the Trump administration successfully navigated? None.
I think they're doing a much better job in Israel than the Democratic Party was.
Why? They haven't done
At least
anything.
they were
How?
actually, yeah, they were promptly selling missile systems and bombs to Israel, whereas
We doing that
along
under
with other
Biden?
munitions. Whereas the no, they weren't. They were delaying shipments,
They got what they needed.
especially
They
right
got
before the
tons
election.
of
They
aid.
were delaying
They
shipments.
got tons of aid. What were
They
they
were
losing
delaying
fights or
shipments.
something? What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Sorry, old meme, but funny meme. Sacred Snow says, the U.S. deposes leaders like I paint Warhammer, except they do it faster and more often. Ah, classic.
There were shortages of munitions, especially large, like bunker busting bombs. That was delaying the invasion.
I don't agree with that. I think that the delays that were happening were because they wanted to see more evacuations of citizens or humanitarian pauses. It happened right before the initial invasion on October 7th, and it happened later on before they went to invade Rafah. They wanted to see the million people or whatever evacuated north. I don't think there were any meaningful delays.
No, there were delays. There were absolutely delays. The Biden administration was basically promising some large munitions, and sometimes those munitions shipments, they were delayed by like 2 or 3 months. So they were definitely.
Skillful Dunn says this is out of context. Have you seen Farscape? Farscape consistently gets recommended by members of my chat and community for being a really good sci-fi show. I think the vibe, somebody's going to have to tell me, is that it's like a more militarized Star Trek. I did check out some clips the other day just because obviously I always check out like random sci-fi stuff that you guys suggest to me. So I was watching like a big CGI battle, and I forget what the context of the battle was, but effectively it's like their version of the Federation, their version of the good guys had set up a battle between them and like a really bad faction, but there was some like subterfuge in it where effectively like they were deploying this massive battle in this area as a distraction so they could go do this like really important objective. I forget what the context of it was, but like the CGI, man, I'm not gonna lie, it's like 90s CGI. You know, it's like, have you guys seen Beast Wars? I know I'm dating myself with this reference, but have you guys seen Beast Wars? Because Beast Wars was my jam back in the day. Transformers 3D cartoon. This shit was so corny compared to the amount of love that I have for it. Okay. So if you look at Beast Wars 3D animation, look at this stuff. It's a giant metal robot with leopard skin with like a gun running. And dude, this was my jam. When I was growing up, watching like Beast Wars on a Saturday morning, eating some like breakfast cereal, this shit was fire. All right. This shit was so fire. I freaking loved Beast Wars. But you see the animation quality where it's like you're an 8-year-old and you're like, this is liquid hot fire, but you're probably 40 and you're like, wow, this sucks ass. So if you look at Farscape, I'm not looking for art. I'm looking for like an actual CGI battle. I'll have to take a look at it. But anyways, there was like a CGI battle where I was like, dang, this is like hardcore late 90s, early thousands CGI. I was still having a good time, but you gotta accept the aesthetic. Okay. You just have to say, this looks a little CGI. This looks a little corny, you know, and then you just go, I'm gonna enjoy it anyways. That's what you got to do. Fell Runner for the 5. Thank you, King. Please skip to 4930 when you are bored with the current combo. I'll skip in literally the next minute. Thank you for the chip, by the way. Grassroots says Beast Wars was base. Batu Sai says I'd fake sick to stay home and watch Beast Wars. Base. My uncle got me like 20 of those Transformers figures. Lol. True. Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. Quick shill. I'm probably going to jump. I'm going to jump to 49.30. It's not because I care that much, like one way or the other. It's not like I'm bored. I'm having a good time. I like the content. I like Steven and him fighting. But I think that this is where we just kind of have to admit like what's real. Okay. What's real is that regardless of whether or not the Trump administration did this course of action, it was in our geopolitical self-interest to take Maduro out and try to pressure the Venezuelan regime to fall into our orbit. Now, the truth is we probably have not succeeded. Okay. Deposing Maduro in a quick regime change is hopefully like a shot across the bow to the Chinese in reference to Taiwan, but it's not like a lasting diplomatic or war resolution. It's just a, hey, if we want to fuck you up, we can fuck you up. That's what we said. We basically said, if we want to jack you up, we can jack you up and you can't do anything about it, which is cool. But because Trump is such a loose cannon, I understand the criticism, but then that criticism also applies to Obama, Syria, and Libya. It applies to Bush. No, I don't think it applies to Bush. I think Bush actually had AUMFs the entire time. It applies to, although he probably didn't have sanction for the torture program. So you could say the torture program. It applies to Bill Clinton for Kosovo. It applies to HW for Panama. It applies to Reagan for, I think, Lebanon and I think Grenada. It applies to the Vietnam War for Cambodia and Laos. I saw somebody bring that up. It applies to the Korean War. So if I just go back and I see a century or two of American presidents doing whatever the hell they want when it comes to war, as long as they don't call it war, then I don't think we can get Trump in any more trouble than any of the other presidents of the past century. So that's kind of where I'm at. It is in America's geopolitical interest. It is dangerous. It's a spicy move, guys. It's a spicy meatball of a move. But the United States, like we've mentioned earlier, deposing random leaders is kind of like our hobby, right? This is kind of like what we do. Like every 3 or 4 years, we're like, hey, we don't like that guy. Fuck that guy. He needs to get out of power. Maybe we should provide air cover to his rebels in his country. That way they stab him in the butt with a bunch of knives. Oh, I don't like that guy. That guy's kind of a douchebag. He's friends with Russia. We want to overthrow their naval base. Okay, we're gonna back a bunch of like alleged pro-democratic militias inside their country, but realistically, the pro-democratic militias are going to turn their guns and weapons over to jihadist terrorists. That could be funny. Let's do that. Like I could go back and keep making memes of it, but I think you guys know exactly what I'm saying. So I will fast forward to 49.30. I want to see what the Greenland part of the conversation is. I want to see what other memes they get into. I probably will fast forward to the after call where Mr. Vegan Gains freaks out and smashes his keyboard, but we'll take it from there. Anyways, like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. We are at a 6 out of 10 with an hour left on the goal. We got 4 goals, 4 super chats left. They can be $2, man. They can, if you're brokies and you're tapped out or whatever, you could do a $2 super chat. It still counts towards a goal. And if we hit 10 super chats in 2 hours, then Grassroots Hegemon is going to try to kidnap the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in a marriage potato sack, similar to Borat. So just something to consider. If you think that's worth your money, we might kidnap the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom for a laugh.
Totally be in favor of somebody taking out Trump and arresting him.
What if the leaders what if there was a military operation from Denmark that captured Trump because Trump is threatening to invade and capture Greenland?
Yeah, that's just him being a windbag.
Holy shit, that would be funny. Holy shit, that would be funny. Oh my God. I would laugh my ass off. If Danish special forces were capable of like invading the White House, kidnapping Trump, and then dipping out to either Greenland or Denmark, and they said, hey, this guy was like threatening imminent war against us. He was threatening like all this illegal shit. So we did a preemptive strike. And as a result, we took him out and, we want good relationships with America. But until they give up this aspiration of invading Greenland or invading Denmark militarily, we need to, this is what we needed to do I can only become so turgid, guys. I can only become so turgid. That would be amazing. Now, it would probably, let's be real, on principle, it would probably have a blowback effect where we would just invade Denmark or invade Greenland as a counter response to our leader getting kidnapped. But that's because we're the most military on the planet. But on principle, that sounds sick.
They might not view it that way after we deposed Maduro.
Again, ridiculous. Oh my
I wouldn't even say ridiculous. I'd be like, that'd be dope.
God. Do you want to debate that stupid, silly topic? Trump's never going to invade Greenland. It's never going to happen. That is just Trump being a silly idiot and thinks it's funny. That's all it is.
Okay, you realize nobody else thinks it's...
No, it's not. It's not just Trump being a silly idiot. Let's pull up Geopoll. I know you guys love Geopoll. You guys freaking love Google Maps, huh? Me too. Greenland, Google Maps. Okay. So what's happening when my page opens is there's a variety of reasons why we would want Greenland. Okay. Well, let's take a look at this. All right. We're in the United States. Connor's down here in silly old Florida in the Caribbean. We're talking about the invasion of Venezuela, which has a third of the proven oil reserves. So, you know, taking this over because they're in our hemisphere and or making them allies, that way it screws over Iran, Russia, and China, is in our geopolitical national self-interest. We should probably do it legalistically. We should probably have the backing of Congress if we were to do anything more than enforce the sanctions, enforce the blockades, and pursue and attack the shadow fleet. We should probably have congressional authorization. However, if we go up here, here's Greenland. Okay. Now, Canada, realistically, like almost all of Canada's population is on the southern part of their country. This area, somebody has told me, despite it being incredibly green, apparently their topsoil sucks. Somebody told me this. I don't know if it's true, but they effectively said not only is it cold here, but the topsoil doesn't really have what you need in order to grow the right crops. So even though this is like a huge green space filled with like mountains and forests and this, that, the other, it's actually not that great of agricultural land. So realistically, if like global warming was a thing where it effectively turned, I don't know, the equator into a belt of sand because it was getting scorched by the sun so bad that we, you know, it was no longer good or whatever. The Canadian Shield, yeah, it's basically just bedrock. Yeah, so what we need to do is we would need to like farm in the northern United States wherever there was good topsoil, and then maybe we unironically would need to load up all the topsoil that was getting cooked by the sun, and we would need to move it into the Canadian Shield, as some people are talking about. I don't even know if that works. I don't even know if you took the topsoil and brought it back up to Canada because the temperatures were so bad, if we would be able to do that. But we could figure that out when global warming actually becomes like, I don't know, a life-threatening emergency to middle-class, upper-class Americans. So anyways, and the point is we already have Alaska. Alaska is huge, dude. Look how big Alaska is. And this is also 90% depopulated. All Alaskans are in Hitakori Batutai. What? Is that like a war cry? I don't know. Zatuichi. I know the blind swordsman Zatuichi, but the blind swordsman Zatuichi jumped into my chat and then said Hitakori Batusai. And to me, that sounds like a war cry before Japanese dudes start charging me with katanas. So that's actually scary. Anyways, 90% of Alaska's population lives in the southern part of Alaska. And then this is also wildly depopulated. And so as a result, if global warming's a thing, then we're moving north. That's all I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say. So Greenland, I don't know why we need to militarily occupy Greenland, considering Denmark is an ally of the United States. Only 50,000 people live here. We have the capacity to probably build as many, bases as we want. And if there were rare earth minerals that we wanted access to, we could probably just come up with a deal where American corporations go in and pull out the rare earth minerals, and then we give a cut to the Greenlanders and the Danes, and we wouldn't need to invade. So this entire thing, the Trump saber rattling is entirely silly. But the other reason why we want this territory allegedly is we also want it, maybe for global warming, but we also want it because it is a gateway. I forget which one's the Arctic and which one's the Antarctic. I'm assuming the Arctic is the northern one and the Antarctic is the southern one. Can somebody correct me on that? Is the Arctic the top and the Antarctic is the bottom? But the point is that, like, it's a Arctic is the top. Thank you. Okay. So it's a gateway to the Arctic. And not only is it a gateway to the Arctic, but weirdly enough, I know that we're traveling on this map, but weirdly enough, shooting missiles and sending military forces that are capable of traversing the Arctic is one of the fastest ways into Russia. Now, of course, we have Finland just joined NATO. Sweden just joined NATO. We have friends in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Ideally, if Ukraine was ever split up into a two-state solution and was at peace, we could add Ukraine to the NATO alliance. And then at that point, Russians just have Belarus as a buffer state. They have this small area of Russia that has a port in it. They might still have Crimea, but then at that point, you effectively have like an American foothold in Europe that allows us to constantly pressure Russia to play nice, right? But then not only that, we have a threat to Russia through the Arctic, right? During the summer, I'm sure it's still covered in ice, but if we had like crazy icebreakers, we could just send like 1 million dudes north, cut through the Arctic Ocean, and just like arrive in northern Russia and be like, hey, what's up? Which doesn't make sense to me because we could just do that through Europe. But whatever. Anyways, the point is there's like real military, economic concerns with Greenland. Having them in orbit is great, but we could achieve the same goals with the Danes and the Greenlanders rather than threatening military invasion. So I do think Trump is an R-slur, but I also think that Trump is serious. More Connor out of context stuff? Great. Hit the Corne Batuzari! Keep Your Bill Steins says the Canadian Shield, it's basically just bedrock. There we go. It's unstable. Imagine the Dust Bowl. Okay. Bong and Stuff says Glacier scraped all the stuff off and pushed it down into the US. Sucks to suck. But, you know, we could bring some of that with us. Keep Your Bill Stein says mercatorial projections skew the size. True. Laugh my ass off. Connor out of context. True. If global warming threatens farmland, we can always go Soylent Green. Okay. Hitakori is an assassin. The minerals are not worth it. It is way too cold for the minerals. It would be too expensive and too cold. Well, you know, maybe global warming's the thing. I don't know. Son Patriarch says, I'm up on that honey-do list grind today. Based. All right, we're still at a 6 out of 10, guys, and we got 45 minutes left. I know that everybody's probably chipped out, oiled out because they're waiting for their next paycheck. If you're broke, don't worry about it. But I do want to break at least the first goal. That way, Grassroots Hegemon can try to kidnap the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. So if you got $2, $5, $10, and you can chip in order to get us past our first goal, please do so.
That's
too much
funny,
for Trump
right?
to lose.
Literally nobody else is finding this funny, right? Other world leaders are worried. It's undermining the position of NATO.
That's why it's funny to Trump. But it's ridiculous for you to bring this up and try to act as though I have some sort of double standard.
Okay.
So it's never happening. Trump just thinks it's funny. That's why he's saying it. The guy is an unhinged dumbass with no tact.
Aw, okay. Well, a lot of you guys, a lot of the libs in my chat, whenever you say something mean about the Republicans or whatever, but you're still saying, you're still saying like, oh, well, here's why Trump's right, but realistically, Trump is still a dumbass. A lot of libs and progressives don't hear the second half. They just hear the first half. And so I just want to say, Vegan Gains, I hear you saying that Trump is an unhinged dumbass and that we should not be doing it the way that he's doing it, and he's kind of an arsler and this, that, the other, because a lot of other people, they'll be like, oh, you're a Trump simp because you're backing him invading Greenland. You're making excuses for him invading Greenland, invading Venezuela. That must mean you love Trump. And it's like, no, I actually have critical thinking. Send Patriarch for $2 says, for my wall husband's dream. Based. Thank you, King, and thank you for getting us there. Fatsimo says, is Grassroots a male model? No, but he could be. People in 2026 still get frazzled by that Trump doesn't act presidential thing. Yes, they do, aka Batusai, because threatening to invade your neighbors is not cool. But anyways, thank you. We only have two more super chats left, and I have a feeling we're going to hit the goal. So thank you to Sen Patriarch and for Fatsimo for chipping in.
And again, that's why he's saying it, because he knows it'll ruffle so many feathers. So this, again, does not make him comparable to Maduro in any way.
I didn't say it made him comparable to Maduro, but I think that Denmark could probably feel they have some justification to try to capture the U.S. leader if he's...
Which, once again, I must say is mad funny. And I would approve... I of course would say that if the Danes snuck into the United States of America, kidnapped Donald Trump, and brought him back to Denmark for legal prosecution, then the United States would have to probably respond militarily and then actually take Greenland and or invade Denmark in order to get Trump back on principle. But I do think it would be mad funny. Super funny. Definitely worth like a few dozens people's lives and the peace of the international order. So Denmark, if you watch my stream, go for it.
Making comments about this, and you keep saying it's a
Great.
joke, but
Again,
multiple people in the administration have talked about different ways they could do it, amounts of money that they could send, some sort of purchase or buyout, talking about the percentage of Greenlanders or whatever that want to be independent and that they should vote for it. So,
Bell running with the 5, getting us to the 9 out of 10. Please read Trump's letter from this morning explaining why he will not pursue peace anymore as part of the segment. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll pull it up now so I have it on hand.
Again, I don't know why you'd make the comparison between that. Everyone
well, didn't you say
knows
one of the problems earlier was
silly
Donald Trump
nonsense.
making jokes, or was Maduro not taking Donald Trump seriously? Didn't you say that was a big issue from Maduro? Maybe he thought they were jokes as well, no?
Well, what do you mean? The U.S. was clearly planning an attack for at least 2 months.
So that's super
And
clear.
I can guarantee,
but
and by the way,
Maduro thing, or I'm sorry, but the Greenland thing is very clearly a joke. What does it say when the
What
rest of the world
has
hasn't been able
Trump
to? Do you
done?
think it? Why is the rest of the
What
world
has
having
Trump
trouble
done?
understanding this?
What has Trump done to suggest an imminent invasion of Greenland?
He invaded. We invaded
US Navy
Venezuela
vessels?
and we deposed the leadership there.
Wow. Let me read this. This is like legitimately psycho shit. This is where I want to be like, no, AK about to say, I don't think you can say that. You say, yeah, Jesse, don't ask dumb. Let's read this because this is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen an American president say, past or present. Let's read it together. President Trump says his controversial push for U.S. control of Greenland comes after he failed to win the Nobel Prize last year, adding he no longer feels obliged to think only of peace. In a message to Norway's Prime Minister, Jonas Gahr Støre, on Sunday night, Trump criticized the European country for not giving him the prize. Considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant, but can now think about what is good and proper for the United States of America, Trump said in the message. The world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland, Trump added. This message was reported by PBS NewsHour and was later confirmed by Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre in a statement. Gahr Støre said he received this message on Sunday in response to a text he and Finland's Prime Minister Alexander Stubb had sent to Trump, in which they had conveyed opposition to Trump's proposed tariff increases on 8 European countries over the recent Greenland dispute and pointed to the need to de-escalate. Norway's position on Greenland is clear. Greenland is a part of the Kingdom of Denmark, and Norway fully supports the Kingdom of Denmark on this matter, Gahr Støre stated. He also supported the NATO in a responsible way, is taking steps to strengthen security and stability in the Arctic. Gahr Støre also pointed out that while President Trump claimed that Norway decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize, the government of Norway is not responsible for the awarding of the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded by a 5-member Norwegian Nobel Committee since 1901. The Peace Prize, which was... I'm sorry, man. I shouldn't be laughing. I should not be laughing. It should be serious, bro. It should be serious. It should be serious that the current president of the United States is threatening European allies in order to obtain a giant ice chunk in the Arctic. That, yeah, it's important to American military strategy. Yeah, they might have minerals that is like worth, you know, some people are saying that it's so not worth, like the amount of energy put into it, like extracting the minerals would not be worth it or whatever. But yeah, that's crazy, man. I shouldn't be laughing. Yeah, he's a toddler. He's a baby. He's just joking around. Yeah, dude, this is like sad. This is sad. This is R-slurred. Or they could just sell it to us. Yeah, sure. Sure. What is Trump's price offer? Okay. Wasn't it like 500 billion? What did Trump offer to buy Greenland? Because if it's 500 billion, I'm not gonna lie, I might have taken that deal. Proposed United States acquisition of Greenland in 1868. Okay, no, I'm not talking about 1868. Hold on. What money did Trump offer for Greenland? Because if it's 500 billion, I'd be like, eh. The weak business case for Trump acquiring Greenland, $1 trillion price tag. Okay, is it $1 trillion? President Donald Trump, dogged determination to annex the icy island of Greenland, relies on the idea that doing so would be a U.S. and untapped treasure trove of natural resources and strategic military positioning. But the harsh environment, enormous financial investments, and massive infrastructure and workforce build out required to create an economic engine cost at least $1 trillion over 2 decades and make little to no economic sense, according to industry and geopolitical analysis. The prize is great on paper for a real estate tycoon like Trump. After all, Greenland would exceed the Louisiana purchase as the largest geographic acquisition in U.S. history, but multiple specialists in the region and its resources dismiss the economic reason as nonsensical, given that Greenland already is open to greater U.S. investment in military scale-up. Yeah. Like, why do we need to own it? Why can't we just go develop? If it's worth it to develop the resources, and if it's worth it to put in military bases, why can't we just update this with a status of forces agreement? You know, there's something called a SOFA, a status of forces agreement. We have one with Japan. We have one with Germany. We have one with France. We have one with England. We have one with Spain, Portugal, Italy. Every European nation has a status of forces agreement. Every ally has a status of forces agreement. So we could actually unironically just update a piece of paper that says American corporations can come into Greenland, a territory of Denmark, and develop natural resources as long as they give X portion of revenue or profit or whatever to the Kingdom of Denmark. And then we could say, we are interested in building these 5 bases with these military capacities within within Greenland, which is a part of the country of Denmark. Therefore, therefore, here's an updated agreement saying that we can build these bases, right? Trump Scotia. He wants to name it Trump Land. Oh my God. Yep. Also, nothing is keeping the U.S. from building the Golden Dome in Greenland. Yes, unironically, we could just, what was it? We were supposed to be building a IDF style missile defense system that would take down ballistic missiles from Russia and China the way that the IDF dome, Iron Dome, is supposed to protect 80 to 90% of missile and drone threats out of Israel. So yeah, we could absolutely do that. So what's the problem, right? But then, so here's where a financial investment might actually be mad funny. Okay. This is where this would be mad funny though, because there's 55,000 people in Greenland. All right. So 500,000 million billion. Okay. And let's divide this in 2, because let's just give half of it to the Kingdom of Denmark. We would just give them $250 billion. Hey, here's $250 billion, eat a wiener, right? Now we divide $250 billion, divide that by 55,000, because there's around 55,000 people in Greenland. That means that every Greenlander would get $4,545,455.55. So, dude, I'm not gonna lie. If I was like living in Greenland and I was freezing my balls off and I just lived there because my parents lived there and I was a part of the Kingdom of Denmark and I kind of wanted independence, but the United States wanted to buy me. And then the United States said, hey, bro, we know you love Greenland. So we're going to pay the Kingdom of Denmark $250 billion to F off, and we're going to pay you individually $4,545,454.55 in order to shut up about whatever we want to do with Greenland. I would do that. that might seem a little cynical, but I would do it.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So, oh, you know what? He gave weapons to Israel to like fight Hamas. Maybe that's an indication he'll like just blow up Canada. Like, again, this is just stupid. So, again, Trump moved U.S. Navy vessels all around Venezuela. They were attacking drug boats.
Cise Puede asked me a question that somebody else said in chat before. They were, what if China offered the United States the same type of deal so you no longer get to be American, Connor? No. A part of the deal would be I get to move wherever I want to move. So let's say that China says, hey, we really want Florida. Like the Caribbean's in our geopolitical interest. We promise we're not going to do anything nefarious, America. We just really like Jimmy Buffett. Okay. We love Jimmy Buffett. We love mahi mahi. We love marijuana. We love bananas. We love oranges. And we want like guaranteed access to oranges, bananas, Jimmy Buffett, motorcycles, methamphetamine, strippers who wear Confederate bikinis. Like that's what we want. And so we're willing to offer the United States $250 billion for Florida. And then we're also willing to offer each Floridian citizen $4,554,454.55. Okay. Then I would say, thank you, China. I'm going to take my $545,454.55 and I'm going to move to Massachusetts or Maine or San Diego or Canada or Mexico. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going, but I got $4,545,000, $454.55. I'm going somewhere. So, yeah. State pride isn't compared to country pride. I know. On principle, we shouldn't do this. Okay. You guys need to hear me. I'm kind of like making a joke out of it. On principle, Greenlanders should be independent. Okay. If Greenlanders want independence from the Kingdom of Denmark, they should just have independence from the Kingdom of Denmark, especially if they vote on it democratically and there's like a super majority. If 60% of Greenlanders want to be independent from the Kingdom of Denmark, they should be independent from the Kingdom of Denmark. If they want to remain sovereign, that's totally fine, but they need to be an ally with a status of forces agreement with the United States. Or else maybe in a couple of years, we'll get a little regime changey and then we'll kidnap the president of Greenland. Okay? So, yeah. Anyways, I'm mostly memeing. Like 60, 40, 70, 30 memeing. But I also want you guys to think about, like, if somebody offered you everything you've ever wanted materially in order to occupy a territory that they're going to develop, and then you have the ability to stay in that territory or leave that territory, what's your answer? Maybe I don't have enough national pride. Maybe I'm not thinking patriotically enough, but I think the answer might surprise you if you actually sit down and think about it for a second.
They're making clear indications that Maduro is, a target. He's had an arrest warrant out against him for the last 6 years. There was every indication that they're going to, kidnap or arrest Maduro and overthrow his regime. And chances are they gave warnings to Maduro about this, especially given how he was acting on TV, kind of making a joke about some of these things. So, what indication has the U.S. made that they're like going to invade Greenland?
They keep
Have
talking
they
about it
been-
over and over
have
again.
they been maneuvering?
Yeah, exactly. Politics, JK. That would be just me. If we were dividing it up by every Greenlander, then if as a 4-person family, we would get $18 million. Yes. If somebody walked up to me and said, hey, I'm going to give you $18 million and you have 2 options. You can stay in Florida, at which point you will be under the Chinese Communist Party government, or you can move more inland to the United States. Then I'm going to say, hey, Florida, that was fun. I'm taking my $18 million and I'm moving into the United States. The same way that a Greenlander, hypothetically, if the United States bought it, they could either stay in Greenland or they could move to the Kingdom of Denmark.
U.S. Navy vessels? Are they blowing up drug boats around Denmark? Are they saying anything about Denmark's leader being a corrupt drug trafficker? Like, is there anybody from that country with an arrest warrant out?
Okay. I mean, they
So
don't
you
have those
nothing.
things
All
met
you
yet.
have
But
is, Trump said a gaffe on TV.
Sorry. AK Batusai brings up an interesting deal, which is effectively that whoever is president next, let's say Trump actually did it. Okay. Let's say Trump made that offer, Kingdom of Denmark is 250 billion. The who is it? The Greenlanders get $5 million per citizen. So a family of 4 would walk away with almost $20 million. And they have the right to move to the Kingdom of Denmark, stay in Greenland, or even move to the United States because now they're US citizens, right? Then let's say that the Democratic president came in and they were like, hey, that was kind of messed up. So like, our bad. Also, Greenland, you can be independent. We just want like a really favorable status of forces of agreement. You're now a sovereign nation. That would be hilarious if the Kingdom of Denmark played us like that, where they get to walk away with $250 billion just because we're idiots. And also, Kingdom of Denmark, I want to see what their GDP is. Because their GDP is 400 billion annually. And so that would be the equivalent of somebody offering the United States $10 trillion. Okay. Because our GDP, our taxes, our annual tax revenue, or what we spend, I should be more precise. I think our annual tax revenue is around 4 trillion. I think our annual budget is 6 trillion. But I think the American GDP is actually pretty stinking big. Like, I think it's around $20 trillion. So American GDP 2025 total is $30 trillion, dude. So imagine if, somebody like a space civilization offered us $15 trillion to occupy the United States. And then 15 trillion, so that's 1,000, million, billion, trillion, divide by 330 million. That would only be $50,000. So I'm not gonna lie. If there was an alien civilization that offered us, $50,000 per citizen, maybe no. If China offered me $50,000 so they could own Florida, I'd probably say no. I'm just going to be real. Sorry, I know I'm being autistic and I'm probably losing a couple of VOD viewers just by doing this, but I want to check out one more thing. What's the population of Denmark? 6 million. Okay, so the deal might not be as good for them. Okay, because if they got $250 billion, let's take a look at this real quick. 250,000 million billion divide by 6 million. Yeah, that's only $40,000 per Danish citizen. So I could understand why the Danes would be pissed, because for the Danes, if you were like, hey, I'll give you $50,000, but then we get Greenland, then they'd be like, no. Like, I don't need $50,000 that bad. I like having Greenland. I like us occupying this huge territory that is geostrategically important. And if you want it, then we can just negotiate how you're going to use the territory. But realistically, we want to maintain it for the prosperity of our progeny, right? Yeah, I can understand why the Greenlanders, I think, should probably say yes. I think the Danes should tell us to raise our price. Oh, Fashion 40 says they won't let me super chat. I'm trying to help the goal. Gosh darn it. Okay, well, hey guys, we got 30 minutes. No, we got 20 minutes, okay? And I do want to see Grassroots Hegemon attempt to kidnap. And I don't think Grassroots should do it. Okay, I don't think Grassroots should chip or oil a super chat because realistically, we're trying to see if the COG can come together in order to finance kidnapping the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. So if anybody out there, Fashion 40 wants to donate but can't because the super chats are messing up or whatever. But if anybody out there has $2, $5, $10, whatever you got, you know, it doesn't have to be much. We just need to beat the goal. If you want to hit the goal, then Grassroots Hegemon is going to attempt to kidnapping on the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. So, you know, $2, guys, $2. And then we try to Borat kidnap the UK PM. He just existed. AK Batusai, he says, what does the United Kingdom Prime Minister do? What did he do? He existed. He existed. All right.
A gaffe?
Trump
It's not just a
said it,
gaffe. There's
so
multiple. Wait, hold on.
obviously-
Can you admit that it's not just a gaffe? This has been a conversation topic for a long
Well,
time.
it's not a
that
gaffe. Yeah, it's
multiple
not
members of the
literally a
administration
gaffe.
are talking about. Okay.
It's not literally a gaffe, but I mean, like, look, dude, if I say on fucking, like, if I tell you I'm gonna fuck your mom tonight, should the police be worried? Should they be on alert like that? I'm actually gonna fly to wherever your mom lives, Florida or some shit, and fuck your mom.
Did you already fuck
look,
the
when
neighbor's
Trump
mom?
says
Maybe.
anything, literally anything, we should take it absolutely seriously. Like, we don't need any other indication that you know, something is actually going on. Oh, Trump said it, so I guess that's the way it's going to be. So your evidence that Trump is going to invade Greenland and Denmark should be worried is, well, he said it on TV a bunch of times.
I mean, he's the U.S. president of the United States. He's kind of the final call on it. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? He's also Trump. We know he's a
and he's a
Bro. Cise Puede says, weren't the oil ships, the Ghost Navy or whatever, weren't they already sanctioned? Yeah, they were sanctioned. Yeah. We did it. 1776 is going to commence again. Start the techno music. All right. Grassroots Hegemon. Let me know where to ship the potato sack. Oh, let's do it. All right. I'm resetting the goal. No big deal. I understand we're later in the month. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Operation Potato Sack is a go. Grassroots Hegemon, I expect you to wait for the next Prime Minister's conference, and I expect to see you there with a balaclava and a potato sack embroidered with a sigil of your house. From the ashes for two. I'm doing my part. Thank you, King. Thank you. I think we need Grassroots Hegemon. You know, you said that you wanted to be Olenna Tyrell, so I think it's only fair that you get a human-sized potato sack, a burlap sack. You sign in. You can pick your sigil. So if you want to do a different sigil, do a sigil. If you can't think of a sigil, then you sew in the sigil of House Tyrell, and then you attempt to kidnap the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I think it's only fair. Everybody chipped in. Everybody hit the goal. So now it's on Grassroots to do, you know, From the Ashes did their part. You need to do your part. Oh my God. Okay. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them. I'm going to watch this for a little bit more, and then I'm going to watch the crash out. I kind of want to get, like, maybe, as a matter of fact, don't you think we're kind of good on Greenland? I think we're good on Greenland. Let's fast forward to the crash out. I'll do like the last couple of minutes of invading Greenland, and then I'll do the crash out.
That's it. We shut him down now. What percentage of oil is China, Russia been getting
Yeah,
for
well,
Venezuela?
how
Like
much-
2%?
great.
Okay.
All right, looks like it's getting spicy towards the end there, so I'm gonna rewind 5 minutes just so we can see the spice. Grassroots Hegemon going dark. Pulls the nods down on his face. Nice.
God.
So saying that I'm considering invading if
that what
I
he's
don't
saying?
have that is technically dialogue.
No,
How is that force?
No, that's
This is like saying
I don't see
I'm
how
not
it's a clear
invading.
violation of Article 1.
okay.
I'm not invading. I'm just
It
like
says
hanging out
force
on your fucking
specifically.
land.
threat.
Yes, it said force specifically. Are you saying that is the use of
No,
force?
it says a commitment to peaceful negotiations and a commitment to dialogue stuff. Is yeah, I can go and read it after I get out of this lobby if you want, but
There we go. ARS Sirius for 200 ARS. Is there any meaningful difference in how the U.S. is able to protect Greenland between them owning it versus doing it through NATO? I think the U.S. has said, hey, we want 200% increase in military. They would have said yes. Yeah, there isn't real serious. There is not. It's the aesthetic of ownership. So, for instance, we have a status of forces agreement with Japan. Okay. Now, the Japanese technically could tell us to buzz off at any time, but they probably don't want to. Some large portions of the Japanese population do want to tell us to buzz off. Like if I had to ask, as a matter of fact, we could probably just check polling real quick. I think how many Japanese people want the United States to leave? I got to say it's probably a quarter of the population or a third of the population. How many Japanese citizens want the United States to leave? There's no single number for Japanese citizens wanting the U.S. to leave, but opinions vary significantly with strong anti-base sentiment in Okinawa due to noise, crime, and accidents, while a national majority often supports the U.S. alliance for security, especially against China, though support for bases themselves is lower, with surveys showing that most Japanese don't want bases near their homes. The opposition in Okinawa is high. Residents of Okinawa, where most U.S. troops in Japan are stationed, strongly oppose the bases, citing environmental disruption, crimes by personnel, and safety concerns, with large protests and referendums rejecting base relocations. With large protests and referendums rejecting base relocations, that's what I'm saying. It could easily be like 25 to 40% of the population, like once us gone. But the businesses, the people who do deals with them, all that kind of stuff, there's enough of an economic, deeply entrenched interest that I still think even Okinawa, the vast majority of people want Americans there, even if they hate them or dislike them or think they're rude or think they cause rapes or think they cause car accidents or think they drink too much or think they fight too much or think they have a disruptive cultural influence on Okinawa. I seriously think that even amongst the people who want the bases to stay, they would be like, yes, American Marines in particular are drunk, obnoxious, criminal, marauding, violent freaks, and I don't want them anywhere near me. However, the economic benefits outweigh the social cost. So base proximity says, despite national support for the alliance, surveys show a large majority, around 82% in one study, of Japanese people don't want a U.S. base located near their home due to noise, crime, and accidents. I mean, that's reasonable. That's totally reasonable. I totally understand that. So yeah. Excuse me. And sorry, I'm trying to answer the real serious question while also just checking out the Japan thing as an analog. Yes, we do not own Japan. Japan is a sovereign nation. They have their own parliament. They have their own president. I don't even know if the emperor is still alive, but maybe the emperor is still alive. Does Japan still have an emperor, or did they abolish the monarchy at some point? Does Japan still have an emperor? Yes, Japan still has an emperor. The current monarch is Emperor Naruhito, who ascended the Chrysanthemum throne. That sounds cool. In 2019, after his father, Emperor Akihito, abdicated, making Japan the world's oldest continuous monarchy with a symbolic ceremony role as the symbol of the state under its constitutional monarchy. Wow, I didn't know Japan was still a constitutional monarchy. That's cool. But anyways, yeah, so they still have an emperor. They could technically do whatever they want, but they want us there as a military counterbalance against China. So, China. All right. So, yes, we could do it with the status forces of agreement. I've repeated myself 3 times, so I'm going to move on. Skillful Dunn says, did we get a Dark Mirror type video with a pig after the capture? I think that's gross for the pig. So, no. But, Grassroots Hegemon is his own operator. So, I'm saying no, because I don't want to endorse that. But Grassroots does grassroots things, man. I can't stop them. AK Batu Sai says, my understanding is that Japan has the ships and manpower, but we control their weapon systems and firing controls, so we could be told to buzz off, but then we deactivate all their better weapons. That's probably true. Although I do trust the Japanese to develop their own really good weapons really fast. Cise Puede says, yeah, Okinawa versus mainland is totally different with their opinions. True. Key says that was a funny one, Connor. I'm 50 minutes behind. I try. Thank you, King or Queen. Real Seer says, don't let Trump know. No, we should let Trump know. We should let Trump know that we don't need to militarily occupy Greenland in order to get whatever we want. It's crazy. Targan says, isn't it cringe to name yourself an emperor when you're not an empire? Probably. Dr. Zaya says, the chrysanthemum and the sword was an episode of Mad Men where Don becomes a weeb. No way. No way. And then Fatsimo says, did you ever eat the banana at the banana show? No. No. I'm going to Google the Okinawa Banana Show real quick and see if there's any safe for work things to share with chat. Okinawa Banana Show. Not videos. Okay. So the Banana Show, for those of you who don't know, is a woman who has very strong control of her lower body. Okay. I'll put it that way. And so what she does is she puts a banana in her lower body, and then she cuts the banana with her lower body, and then she feeds it to people. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm using sanitized language. Okay. And so what people do is they go there and they hang out and they get drunk. And then some people will eat the banana. Okay. And so back in the day, this was probably in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. People were like, oh, this girl was cute. So, not that big of a deal. Just kind of like a wild, crazy, insane thing that you could do in the 70s, 80s, or 90s in Okinawa, Japan. And it's kind of become something that Marines tell to other Marines over history. But what's happened is time is a thing. And so she's now 50, or at least she was 50 she might be 70 now, because I think she was like 50 in the 2000s. So people still went to the show, but yeah. Yep. Bud123 says, when is Goonopolis going to be made on Greenland, and when do we deport the Gooners there? Now? Well, QC John says, does she cut it or peel it, and is it peeled first? I think it's peeled first. Right? I think it's peeled first. I'm going to move on because this is a family show. But, yeah.
But
okay, whatever. Like, none of you are actually giving any argument for why we should.
And no, I did not eat the banana.
Consider like Trump's Greenland threat serious. Like, they're just silly.
Because
Like,
the actual argument,
he's the president of the United States.
Yeah, that's really the only argument you need. Anything else that you put out is
Okay.
massive cope on the other end. And you trying to use this like weird argument that like we
Okay,
just
great.
shouldn't take
Well, how about we
seriously
wait-
what the
yeah, why don't
president of
we
the
wait
United
for
States
this
says is like an
person to
unbelievable
Greenland?
statement.
Well, how about you give me a few Bitcoin if he ends up not invading Greenland by the end of his term? Because like it's.
I think that this is a reasonable bet. I think that because what's a Bitcoin worth right now? Isn't it Bitcoin worth like a few $100K? What's a Bitcoin worth? What is a Bitcoin worth? One Bitcoin is worth $93,000. Okay. I would bet like $100. Okay. But I would easily, because I'm not a 7-figure streamer yet. Maybe when I'm a 7-figure streamer, then I'll bet a Bitcoin. But the point is that like I straight up think that he's correct. I think that Vegan Gains is correct. I think the chances of a full-scale military invasion of Greenland is less than a percentage point. I think the mobilization, I think people would freak out during the mobilization. If there was straight up like all East Coast Marines, a bunch of American infantry divisions were like stationing themselves in the Northeast or on the East Coast. That way they could easily be ferried up to Greenland. I think people would freak out like at that time. And Congress would actually pass a war powers resolution saying you are prohibited from invading an ally. You are explicitly prohibited by Congress. That this is an act of war. We do not endorse this. We do not want this. I think Congress would actually overrule President Trump if he tried to do a military thing. And I could see Trump like mobilizing to saber rattle to try to pressure Denmark into doing it because he's a total psycho and he has sycophants around him. But I do not see us militarily invading Greenland, and I would bet $100 against it. So if Destiny was like, okay, bet $100, I bet $100.
It's just silly.
Sure. So
Like,
as long as you want to wager on the other end that we won't set up any long-term refineries, that we won't have.
See, and then I don't know what he's saying. Set up any long-term refineries. I would say that the chances of us doing this are low, that we would not set up long-term refineries, that we will not have long-term bases. But that's not because that's not in the geopolitical interest of the United States of America to do. I actually think it's like a 50-50 shot on whether or not we do that. It wouldn't be because of Trump. It would be because of people in Trump's administration actually saying like, hey, man, we don't really need to own it in order to do all this stuff. So while you're continuing to threaten to invade Greenland, we're actually just going to work in the background to get more military bases and also to develop minerals. Like, I could see that happening. So either way that Destiny is betting on our future developments in Greenland, if he's saying Trump is too stupid to do these things, then I would agree. And if he says, oh, no, I think people underneath Trump will do these things because of how much they're saber rattling about the conflict, then I would be like, yeah, maybe. So Fellrunner says, like, who is the person stopping Trump right now? I have no idea. I got no idea, bro. I had Mad Dog Mattis back in the day. I had General Mad Dog Mattis. So Anonymous Chatter for 10. Thank you, King. Christian Vlaris, leader of the Pile People, Order of 69. Oh, Captain, my Captain, I stand and salute you with a hand, an arm, and something else. We shall follow you into the depths of the pile. Oh, my God. Okay. I think we need a ceremonial role, okay? Because there's like the mayor of Goonopolis. For those of you who don't know, Beef Supreme and Christian Vlaris are both running for the mayor of Goonopolis. It's a very sought-after position amongst the liberal and progressive side of the community of grill hottists. I think whoever doesn't win, like it has to be a number one and number two. We're not going to make up new positions in the Goonopolis, but I do think that I think the commander-in-chief of the pile should be like another role. So if Christian Vlaris won mayor of Goonopolis or governor of Goonopolis, it's an alliteration. Then I think that whoever else should be a commander-in-chief of the Pile People, and it should be like a military role. So, yeah. Fashion 40 says, now I can chip. Thank you, King. Thank you, King.
Any formal agreements or negotiations we do with Venezuela controlling the terrorist stuff going on in that country.
I never said that we would. I never made those claims.
Okay, then that whole invasion was pointless.
No? What do you mean?
We didn't accomplish anything. It's the same administration.
What do you mean we didn't
We're not
accomplish
getting any
anything?
oil. All we did was waste money
sorry,
on deposing a foreign leader. We didn't get anything for it.
I'm sorry.
Not yet. We got a few oil tankers out of it.
So weakening Russia and China.
We didn't weaken anything.
Again,
They're still going to work with
this has
them.
Only been... How?
Because they're still going to have a relationship with those countries. What do you mean?
And I think we still have a blockade that's ongoing right now.
So capturing Russians' oil, some of Russia's oil fleet.
Okay, what, 2 tankers? That's it? We've shut them down now? What percentage of oil is China and Russia been getting from Venezuela? Like 2%?
Sorry, well, QC John says something that's really important and vital to this conversation in VOD. He says, I feel sorry for the 90s kids that missed out on DuckTales, Rescue Rangers, and the original Ninja Turtles. So true, King.
Great. So they're not getting any oil from those countries. Again, presumably, this is one of the reasons why the U.S. invaded, was to stop the influx of terrorism. Presumably, they're going to try to do something to stop that.
Okay.
What do you mean?
Presumably, they won't.
Islamic
But hey, we'll
terrorists
see.
being trained there?
I think vegan is kind of right. I think the country with the balls to do anything would be France. And France, I think they might actually pull hands and fight.
Grassroots says, all right, I got him. What do I do now? You run. You run. you find the Harrigans. So that there's this show that keeps getting, sorry, VOD viewers, for me getting distracted. We're literally at the climax of the show, and I'm distracting from the content. But I think grassroots, either you stay and you're the prime minister now, right? I think that's what Sen Patriarch says. Aren't you king of Britain right now? You might actually just be the prime minister now, since you kidnapped them. So you should probably double check. So if you're prime minister now, you just stay, right? Now, if you have them, then I think that you need to go get like Irish gangsters. Like there's some new TV show with Tom Hardy out. It's about like gang families. There's some dirtbag son gangster who's the son of like effectively like a king in the gang underworld in the United Kingdom who's Irish or something. And it's played by the guy who used to be James Bond, but he's older now. I forget his name. One of the more handsome James Bonds. The Bond from the 90s and the 2000s. I forget that. Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan is playing an aged but still hyper violent Irish gangster. So go find Pierce Brosnan and Tom Hardy and see if Pierce Brosnan and Tom Hardy are willing to get you hooked up with the UK underworld, and then see if they're willing to throw you on a transatlantic ship back to the United States. Preferably like Guantanamo Bay. Like if there's any ship bound for Cuba, then I think, you could kind of two birds, one stone it, where you just go straight to Cuba and drop the prime minister off at Guantanamo Bay for interrogation. So that's my recommendation. Or run.
U.S.
We'll see.
Well, good thing for NATO, it's a collective thing. So if France wants to do it, then everybody has to.
Okay, so you people sound like you're completely brain broken. Like the idea that Trump would destroy the NATO alliance, get rid of every U.S. military base, and have hundreds of billions of U.S. military equipment just locked up, unusable, and could be used against the United States if he commits hostile enough actions. It's just retarded.
Okay.
Like I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, Jaquil modifies the bet in a way that I think is interesting. Will Trump to invade Greenland versus will Trump successfully invade Greenland? I think successfully invade Greenland is a hard no, like 99.9 no, 0.01% yes. I think attempt to invade Greenland, it depends on where we draw that line. Could I see Trump mobilizing troops to the east coast of the United States as a part of a saber rattle where he legitimately says, like, I want to invade Greenland. Let's invade Greenland. And the generals are like, no, like you need an AUMF from Congress, or you need a declaration of war. Like we can't just invade a NATO ally because you feel like it. Like, I think that's probably, we could get that far because he is a toddler.
You're brain broken if you think that's a likely scenario.
You want to put some money
Did
on
anyone
it?
say it was likely?
Dan, you
Well, look, he has another like.
Did anyone say it was likely to be
term? Then why are you mentioning this?
Because just because it's unlikely doesn't mean you don't take the risk seriously.
Okay. So maybe we shouldn't let the monkeys, talk to each other for too long because they mightn't write the next Shakespeare.
It's a good idea.
Okay. Let's.
We got to shut down them zoos.
What do you think the odds are comparatively?
Okay, so you're just wasting my time. Okay, so you're all just wasting my time.
What if I was?
You
left.
Damn. I was wasting his time. He got me.
I wasn't. I mean, I think it is pretty fantastical that Trump is going to go and invade Greenland.
You would think. You would hope.
NATO war. But
Only starts a NATO war if NATO fights back.
That we have to talk about it.
Well, the issue is that like we've moved so far along a gradient that I mean, is it really that? I mean,
No,
the Venezuelan shit is crazy, and we seem to have moved on from it in a week and a half or 2 weeks.
You would have told me 4 years ago that Trump would go and steal the president of Venezuela. I would have called you who need the rope. So
call it a 10% chance that he invades Greenland. Like that's still way too much.
Vegan Gains is smashing his desk. What was he smashing his desk over?
I think I accidentally triggered him. I wasn't even trying to do it.
Because you realized it walking out of there.
Yeah, sometimes he runs into that thought loops. I don't know what I would call them, and it seems like it's hard for him to not do that.
Like you can't say what's the evidence for.
Wait, hold on. I want to see the clip. All right, I'm fast forwarding a little bit. They like tease the clip, but I want the clip.
I'm not gonna do any debates ever again. Like maybe rare exceptions where I think I could actually learn something, but I'm never doing a debate ever again. Completely pointless arguing with anybody on anything. It's just so fucking stupid. Completely pointless. I'm just so sick of listening to stupid, nonsensical shit. Have people waste my time, change topics, straw man me. I'm fucking done. Don't ever ask me to debate anybody. I'm not fucking doing it anymore. I'm so
pissed with the December 9th.
Okay, I'm closing this for a sec.
All right, that's a spicy meatball. Dang. He actually like, man, I got a cheap keyboard, man. I could performatively smash this keyboard and I would lose like $20.